New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. This is last week on the 23rd of January was the 3-year anniversary of episode 1, which was basically an MP3 file that I converted into an MP4 file with like one photo of Karloff's The Mummy over like 8 minutes of me going And so here we are 217 episodes later with Hans. Are we the baddies?
Are we the baddies?
Who was the first guest on the show? Episodes 2 and 3 for let's see, it was Browning's Dracula, and then it was the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
We've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here, who was basically in the comments from day one, and has been with us ever since. And I think he joined somewhere around episode 15 or 16 for the Halloween double feature.
Yep.
Was it somewhere around there?
Yep.
All the way in the UK. Cheer up, Julia. Jeez. We've got Morgan Scorpion. Good Lord.
It's a party. Come on.
I know, yeah. It's an anniversary party, Julia. Jeez, cheer up. Right? It's not the anniversary of someone dying, for God's sake, all right?
She's thinking I've been married to these
these
people
are
for
villains.
3 years.
These are villains.
She's been stuck listening to us knuckleheads for like 3 years now, or 2 years. I've got Morgan Scorpion, who
hello, everybody.
I remember, I remember seeing something about you on Twitter, and I was like, wow, you'd be really interesting for an interview.
Well,
And then that's how we connected. I can't remember if it was through Twitter or Facebook. Like, I was really trying to get a hold of you. And then we ended up doing the interview, and she was, 10 times cooler than I thought she would be because, with the audiobooks and the movie producing and, these sorts of things, and the supporter of indie filmmaking, indie horror. I've really learned a lot having Julia on the show and, having her as a friend. I appreciate you being here all the time, every time that you're here. And especially, even though you're a night owl, it's 1 a.m. Over there in the UK, and you choose to hang out with us. So thank you. I've got the Ryan Daly, who I think was the second guest who joined us, I think, on episode 5 for Ravenous, which we just revisited. We just revisited Ravenous and went at it again. And has been here, ever since then. Probably leaning more towards the sci-fi end of things, that kind of stuff. I think ever since he saw Wreck, he's been staying away from the horror because I think that genuinely freaked him out.
No, I still watch some horror.
It's like the fucking lights are in. The fucking lights went out in that penthouse. What the fuck's going on right now? And then I think actually in the middle of watching a horror movie one time, we actually had a power outage. And he's like, the lights are out. The lights are out. And I'm like, I know the fucking lights are out, man. I'm sitting right here next to you. Fucking relax. Hold on. Let me get my phone. Jesus Christ. And finally, we've got John K. Alvarez, a bad, bad man. John joined us somewhere between episodes 8 and 10 for Cabin in the Woods. And has been here ever since. And we've had some fantastic conversations talking about things like Carrie, and the Dead Zone, and the Changeling,
baby.
Yeah, Changeling.
The Wicker Man. John was, the first person I met out of everyone here back in 1987. And, he and his brother Paul were always talking to me about the Changeling and the Wicker Man. And so, 1,000 years later, it was good to, be here under the format of the show. To discuss those things we had first been introduced to so long ago. Okay. Where the hell did Ryan go?
The power's out at Ryan's house.
Yeah, I know. Power's out. The power's out. The power's out. Yeah.
You just had to mention Wreck, didn't you? Now he's scared.
He sounded like, what was it? What was the guy in Jurassic Park? Dotson. We got Dotson here. That's exactly what he sounded like. Dotson. We got Dotson here.
Shh, he's back.
All right. So we got that knuckleheaded buffoon Patrick picking his for top villain Elijah Wood. The fucking who the villain is? It's the fucking filmmakers and everybody who participated in that film. They made me should top everyone's fucking list for creating such a big bag of shit and then lighting it on fire and dropping it on our television screens. motherfuckers.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, exactly. 3 years. And, I'm glad to say, actually, it's been 3 years, and I'm still talking the movies I want to talk about. I said from the beginning that I wasn't going to get into the slashers and the fucking whatevers, the Freddys, the Jasons. And, I remember talking to people and there was some concern that I would run out of films, because are there actually that many? And, we're at 218, no signs of slowing down. Yeah, and I thank all of you for being a part of that, and everyone who's popped into the chat.
Oh, glad to be here.
Yeah. So on and so. Not you, Ryan. I didn't mean you. But
thanks.
all right. So hold on. We've got the Ginger Ninja, and he's saying,
Ginger.
"Hey, what's happening, man?
Ninja.
Thanks for stopping by." And we've got Snippy Cutwell.
Great.
Thank you for stopping into
That's
the
a
show.
great
Who's got a little blackface going on, but that's all right. It's 2024, so yeah, it's all good.
Jeez.
We've
You
got
have
Marty.
fire tonight.
Marty, if you want to stop in, I'll put the link. Let me know, and I'll put you in, and you can just come and fucking hang out with us, bunch of motherfuckers. So it's all good. Marty is another one who's been around since fucking day one. He's a cool motherfucker over there in Dublin, and I liked him better when he was unemployed and had more time to just fucking hang out online. Fucking paycheck catching motherfucker. All right, so let's keep going. Crispin Glover and Charlie's Angels, definitely a villain.
Yep.
Creepy
Good
as
choice.
fuck villain, and so Crispin Glover is just a villain. Period.
Yeah,
So, he just plays himself. So good to watch.
I love Crispin Glover.
And
Yeah.
Crispin Glover back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
Scary motherfucker.
Yeah, he was. He kind of was. All right, so let's get
Simon
right
Says.
into it.
Just to mention, Simon Says, bloody brilliant.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
right.
he was.
That's right. Yeah. All right, so here's the way we're going to do it. We have our top 5 villains, but before that, we're going to get to our honorable mentions. Everyone here has one honorable mention, and then we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, round robin. Bill, Eric, Julia, Ryan, John, and then myself. And then we'll go on to the next number until we get to the final one. Here's what's going to happen, though. 2 minutes, basically, to discuss your description of your honorable mention. And then if anybody wants to give a quick input, feel free to go ahead. Pretty basic.
Sure.
We all ready to go?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Hey, buddy.
All right, Bill, give us your honorable mention. I hope I got these overlays right.
No opening? Jeez, all right.
No, go ahead. I mean, make your own opening.
We meant the music.
Where's the creepy music?
Come on, fucking Stravinsky. Come on. Ooh.
No, he means like the thing you put up before every show.
I had a million honorable mentions.
Oh, the lights are out.
Ah!
I kind of forgot which one I actually picked, but I
Dotson, we got Dotson here.
Anton Chigurh. Did I settle on that one?
Are you suffering from dementia or something? I mean,
Yeah.
it's your
I'm looking at
list.
this big long list, right? So Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men.
All right.
There you go.
Amazing performance, amazingly well written part, and it's doubly so because it's written to represent the oncoming of a lot more than just one crazy guy. So he's like representing an entire generation of hardcore evil approaching these guys who are used to a lot of evil, but you know how it goes. That's the honorable mention.
Okay. Yeah, he is he's the next generation. And this idea that police officers aren't prepared for this level of violence. It's kind of like, it reminds me from Mindhunters, where they said they were used to crimes of passion. You slept with my wife, I killed him. You cheated me in business, so I killed him. And now you have random extreme violence between strangers, which they just don't understand. Like, you did what? Why? And so, that, and you have the old guard, Tommy Lee Jones, definitely a tough man and a good man up against something he doesn't understand.
Yep.
Hmm.
And Tommy Lee Jones would have had a heart attack. All he has to do is open up X and start doom scrolling because there's a million Anton Chigurhs out there now.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Anyway, if anybody else wants to jump in on Anton, go ahead. There's something real quick.
He was this close to being on my list. There's a lot of I had a long list and had to trim it down to the 5, but he was there because he was so threatening and just gave me the creeps from the minute he was on the screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can always watch those clips. That's one of those movies where I just never get tired of watching him flip the coin and freak out the old man in the gas station and or tie up his own broken arm and give the kid a bloody $20 bill for his it's just so goddamn good. It's one of those performances that just never gets old.
The scary thing about it is that he's not playing with that guy. That's not a joke that he's doing in that gas station.
Yeah.
Like he was really going to shoot him if it came up tails.
yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
How is he compared to like his book counterpart? Is it a decent portrayal? Because I haven't read the book.
Yeah, it's a decent. It's a really spot on portrayal. It's not quite as in depth.
Oh, okay.
Like he actually has a bit of a morality to the reason. Like if you are coming into his pathway, you've done something that deserves.
Oh,
you
I see. Okay.
You deserve what's happening to you.
He
I'm
has
not
like a
going to
code
harm
almost.
innocents. Yeah, he doesn't shoot civilians or anything like that. If you are encountering me, it's for something that you've done, and I am.
I see.
You're coming.
He's like the Ghostbuster.
One of the hallmarks of great villains is that they definitely live by a code. It may be a fucked up, weird, immoral code, but they stick to this code forever. Sorry, John, go ahead.
No, he's like the Ghost Rider without the flame. It's the way.
Well, that's what happens at the end of the book. He encounters Llewellyn's wife, and she doesn't understand why she's going to die. She's like, "I didn't do anything," and she's like, "No, you married this guy that your mother told you to stay away from. This is all one big loose end. She said he was nothing but trouble. He's been nothing but trouble. He stole $2 million. You participated." And try to, run off with all this money, you don't get by. You don't get a pass.
Interesting.
All right. Eric, what do you got for us? Your honorable mention.
Okay. You said we could pick any type of villain, which includes fun. So yes. I went through my catalog of fun villains, and it was between a lot. I ended up with one played by a fantastic actor, John Lithgow, as Eric Quaylen in Cliffhanger. And what I love about this, he's the stereotypical '90s villain. FBI's most wanted list. Robbing treasuries and shit like that. But what's great about John Lithgow is he knows what he's in and he chews up the fucking scenery like it's a steak.
Oh, yeah.
And what I love about him is not just the stereotypical parts. He enjoys being the bad guy because he's at this time he's usually playing the happy-go-lucky guy, whether it's Third Rock from the Sun or Harry and the Hendersons or shit like that. But what I love about this is he is just so wickedly violent. And the way he's just dismissive of it all. There's a scene where he kills the actor from the Waltons, and Michael Rooker looks at him. He said, "You just killed a defenseless old man." And he just looks at Rooker and says, "Kill one man, you're a murderer. Kill a million, you're a conqueror." Little stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And what I love about him as well, he's also the type of villain where he'll sacrifice anybody to make sure he's the last one alive. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where his lover is Carolyn Goodall, and she's the pilot of the helicopter to get them because they're stuck in the mountains. For context, they're stuck in the mountains type of thing, with Sylvester Stallone trying to stop them. And it's pretty much like a Mexican standoff. And he's holding his girl hostage. John Lithgow is holding his girl hostage because she's the pilot. And, we think he's not going to shoot her, but then you realize, he's fucked in the head, and he's whispering to her. He says, "You know what, true love is sacrifice," and he kills her, and she, she falls down dead. And then he looks at Stallone, and he kind of shrugs. He's like, "Now I'm the only one who can fly us out of here." That's the type of villain that, especially in the '90s, is just a lot of fun. And it's hard to see anyone other than Lithgow play this type of guy.
Yeah.
If you had a list of just, if you did a list of just 90s villains, yeah, he'd definitely be on it. He reminds me of, of a little bit of, you know, in that 90s of people who know exactly what kind of movie they're in. One of my favorites, I didn't put him on my list, but Cyrus the Virus, John
Yeah.
Malkovich,
Yeah.
and Con Air.
I
He
see
kind of
that.
reminds me of him. I
Mhm.
mean, you know, and Malkovich was in that kind of same vein, a little funnier, but you know, that kind of same over the top, you know, vein. But yeah, I remember seeing this, and just his whole squad was just assholes.
Mhm.
And like you actually cheered when they all died. You know,
Yeah.
it was one of those.
John Lithgow plays cold well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm not going to say in the movie, and I'm going to shut up. But if someone mentions that, like him in another movie where he's a villain, if you see me bounce up and down, you know that's the movie I'm thinking of. If not, before we check off, ask me what the John Lithgow movie is.
Let me
He also
guess.
did
Is it
villains in the
Raising
80s.
Cain?
He
Is it
also- yeah.
Raising Cain?
Yeah, he was in Raising Cain.
Is
He
it
did
Buckaroo
movies in the 80s.
Banzai?
It's
I don't wanna
such an
mention a name.
incredibly good actor.
I don't want to
Plays
mention any
5
movies
different
because in
parts.
case somebody picked them. But if
I see.
that's all, you know. But if he did some in the 80s too, and I always pick on your age, but there's one, if you didn't see it, I will highly recommend you find it.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Cool.
All right, let's shift over because I don't want to take too long on these honorable mentions because we
sorry.
still have about 30 more movies to go after that. Julia, what do you got for us? Your honorable mention.
Well, anybody who has been following me on Twitter probably can guess who I'm choosing. It's Cosimo Fusco as Father Angel in 30 Coins.
Yes.
AKA Nyarlathotep. What can I say? Cosimo Fusco does evil really, really well. I've seen him in this other movie called Venetia Frenia, where he plays 2 different characters. I hope that's not a spoiler. And he brings this kind of charm and ferocity to the role. Don't want to sort of spoil 30 Coins too much either, though we have discussed it quite thoroughly. It's just one of the most brilliant shows I've ever seen in my life. I'm raving about it. I'm waiting on season 2 to arrive to find out what the further adventures are. I'm not sure why I put him at the end. I think it's possibly because he is a character that I have come to recently. So, you know, who knows what I'm going to think about in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, whereas the others are characters that I have known and been impressed by for a long time. But what I do really hope is that Cosimo Fusco will go from strength to strength and will appear in season 3 of 30 Coins, if there is one. And, yep.
We
That's that for now.
we covered season 1 together, Julia and I, on the show. We are going to cover season 2 as soon as she gets her physical media, and it's a great show. If you have HBO, if you have Max, go catch 30 Coins. Some real cosmic horror going on there. Spanish, little sleepy Spanish village in Spain. Fantastic story.
Bless you.
All right, Ryan, go ahead.
All right.
Mention.
All right. This one, he's probably one of the most subtle villains in movie history. At first sight, he doesn't seem like a villain, but countless internet arguments have solidified my opinion. All right. We got a lot of Willy Wonka going around right now, but the main villain I contest is Grandpa Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah, boy.
That mofo laid around in a bed for 20 years, complaining, making his daughter do all this stuff, putting him in the poorhouse. And as soon as he gets an invitation to a candy factory, he hops up like a June bug.
Yeah.
All right. then, if you notice, he teaches Charlie to disobey Willy Wonka. He teaches him to steal the fizzy lifting drinks. He grabs Mrs. TV on that scene when she says, "Somebody's touching me." You clearly see him pull his hand away. And when Willy Wonka calls him out on it at the end, he gets all indignant and calls him a monster. No. Grandpa Joe is a straight up villain. All right, he may not be in the vein of the traditional one, but Grandpa Joe doesn't play by the rules. He does what he wants, and they almost get nicked for it.
You are so right. He's the opposite of Jiminy Cricket in that movie.
Exactly.
There's so many instances, like, because that's one of my favorite things is, Grandpa Joe memes. Like when Charlie gets a golden ticket, he says it's ours, Charlie.
Yeah.
This asshole knows
who invited you, Grandpa.
He knows that the Wonka bars are hidden in basically like the Hershey's chocolate bar, like, you know what I mean? And what does he do? He buys him like a marshmallow cream pie. Charlie ain't gonna get a fucking golden ticket in that, so he wastes his money. And then at the end, when Mr. Willy Wonka says you lose, he's like, okay, fine, fuck this guy. We're gonna go sell this to Slugworth.
Exactly.
So I get it. It's a lot of fun.
He's Richard. He's just like the parents of the other kids. The only difference is that Charlie is his kind of the moral center. So, because if Charlie was just as bad as those other kids, they just end up like them. So, because Grandpa Joe is, he's serving himself.
Well, they're also eating cabbage soup for like, years and years, but he still got to have his tobacco,
Yeah. Like, come on, dude.
He's the sloth in the venal sins of that movie.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, John, what do you got for us?
All right, my honorable mention goes to a movie that many critics have referred to as the best written movie. 1973's Chinatown.
Ooh.
And the villain that I picked as the honorable mention is Noah Cross, played by John Huston.
Good call.
Noah Cross is the stereo. It starts off and you think, and that's one of the things that makes Chinatown so great, is that everybody looks like they're playing a certain type of character that we've known and seen. Noah Cross being a businessman, kind of ruthless, kind of shady, but the more and more you get into it, you realize how well he is, that he's actually a murderer, someone who would kill someone. And then, spoiler alert to anybody who hasn't seen it and you haven't, shame on you, you find out towards the middle and the end, he's a pedophile.
Yeah.
Slept with his own daughter.
Yeah, he raped his daughter.
Raped his daughter. The daughter gave birth to the grandchild. And not to give too much away, at the very end, when he hugs the grandchild, you realize that he's probably going to do the same thing to the grandchild, who's about roughly 14, 16 at the time. There's a line at the end when they tell the character by Jack Nicholson, who's the detective, Jake, they turn around and say, forget about it, Jake. It's Chinatown. In the diatribe that I sent to Michael at the very end, what I said, Jake could probably forget about Chinatown, but I couldn't. That guy just made me feel dirty all the way through.
Yeah.
I've never seen Chinatown.
I did, but so long ago I can barely remember it.
Yeah.
The guy who wrote it actually wrote several other movies that were hits and misses, but he won the Academy Award for that in 1973.
Okay.
Mike, the first Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise,
Right.
he wrote that too.
Huh.
Okay.
He did so much research on this, and it's based on the 1928 event that happened.
Yeah, it was like the water or something.
But this was all based. It was like the water crisis in California in the late 20s, early 30s, and it's brilliantly written. And Roman Polanski directed it. It's even though it's it's a Polanski.
Yeah, it's
film.
Polanski. He has a cameo as the guy who cuts his nose.
I used to have it on DVD. I lent it to somebody, and they apologized because they broke it. And I turned around and said, "No, that's okay. That's okay." I hung up the phone, and I think I went, because it's really, especially if you like mysteries or if you're a writer, it's well written, well done. Jack Nicholson gets his in the beginning of the movie. He's the hero, and he gets his nose cut. And he's wearing a bandage throughout the whole movie, and it works for the character.
That's the guy who cuts his nose is Roman Polanski.
It's Roman Polanski. Polanski plays a character in the movie.
Yeah, and then who's
highly recommended if anybody has not seen it.
His daughter's Faye Dunaway, right?
When Faye Dunaway plays the daughter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's definitely not a. Yeah, that's a villain. That's a villain.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's a sicko, man.
He's a sicko in it.
All right. For my honorable mention, just I'll get it out of the way real quick. I went with Pazuzu.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Yeah,
It's a fucking villain. That's as much of a villain as you're gonna get. It's an honorable mention. You know all the reasons why. There's very little subterfuge except for the fact that because the best villain thinks that they're right. I don't know that this villain thinks they're right. I think that this villain just wants to terrorize and demoralize and just hurt and do as much damage as it can. If there's any sort of subterfuge, it's this ability that it has to almost convince Father Karras that it's not really, he's not seeing what's actually in front of his own face. So, all right, yeah, real quick, that was mine. Honorable mention was Pazuzu.
Nice.
All right, here we go. Starting with the top five. Bill, number 5, what do you got for us?
All right, number 5 is one of the best villains ever, but you spend the entire movie not knowing if she's really a villain. That's the strongest point of it. Is you spend your time trying to figure out if it's an unreliable narrator or if there's a misunderstanding. But the battle that she's fighting with the main character is epic. Okay, I'm talking about Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
Very nice.
Yeah.
This character has fascinated me for years because Randall P. McMurphy is my favorite anti-hero, and you want
he was
to
on my
root for
list.
him,
Yeah,
but at the same time, you have to know that he is completely corrupt and possibly a child molester. So you don't know if he's really what he's seeing in Nurse Ratched. You don't know if he's really seeing it or if he's playing it up for his own ego. But he and Nurse Ratched get into this battle of wits or just of nerve, and it's all
Wills, really.
Louise Fletcher plays it so straight that you can't even tell. She seems like she's doing the best thing that she can for these people who are obviously damaged. And I spend the entire movie wondering, is she just doing the right thing and being misunderstood, or is she really evil? Even when it comes down to the point where she's like threatening to tell Billy's mother on him, and he freaks out and off himself. You still don't know if she's really evil. So that's a fascinating thing of all the motivations for great villains. This one keeps you guessing, like, is she really evil? Because if she knew, you're sitting there like, if she knew that Billy would react like that and possibly kill himself, then she is the most evil thing on the planet, right? But the same thing is, there's no overreactions. That straight face, that never breaking, that just staring until she's being choked out by McMurphy. Fantastic performance and a fantastic evil character.
I always felt she did it to just beat McMurphy.
Yeah, and that
She knew he was going to die, and still did it anyway. She
wins in the end anyway.
And deserved it.
And then she's back with the collar and McMurphy, a babbling Gork, and she's just like back to her old ways with that cold, evil smile. It's so good, man. It's such a good movie. Another one that I can watch anytime it's on TV.
I've never actually watched Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, Jesus! That is.
I don't want to watch. Like I know. So I know how it ends, and it just seems so fucking depressing. That while I might be looking at a 5-star film and a great piece of cinema, it's just so fucking sad that I can't bring myself to start knowing. Like I remember when I first started watching Shawshank, And
Mhm.
well, first time I saw it, a
Yeah.
buddy of mine's, let's watch this. And I'm like, I don't want to watch some fucking depressing prison movie,
Mhm.
And then we go through it and you
Right.
see, that this, the sunshine, the big fucking sunshine on a beach at the
Yeah.
end of the movie. This I know in advance. We're not going to the beach.
Yeah.
We're just,
Yeah.
it's going to be, I don't know if it's naturalism or, I don't know what it is, but yeah, I can't bring myself to just sit down and just to be fucking bummed out.
I
It's
get it.
It's a great movie, and you have to.
I
watch
might read the book at some point.
because of all those actors that you
Yeah.
come to know and love throughout.
Oh,
the
yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Some of
Yeah,
them.
Brad Dourif.
their
Yeah,
appearances.
Dourif's in it.
And as-
Christopher Lloyd and Danny DeVito's in it too.
Yeah.
And Vincent
Oh,
Chiavelli.
Yeah.
And,
I saw it, Mike, and went into it the same way that you did, but at the end, I was actually crying and cheering.
Mm.
As bad as the ending it was, I actually started cheering.
Well, and if you
that
read it,
balance thing.
if you read the book, and then if
Yeah.
you read the book and look at it in that context, Chief is telling the story.
Yeah.
Chief is the main character. He's the narrator.
Yeah,
And
he's also a
so if
paranoid
you look at it
schizophrenic,
in
so you
that
don't
frame,
know
that
if
it's
he's a
kind of
reliable
Chief's.
narrator.
Yeah, if you look
Yeah.
at it from Chief's point of view,
Point of view. Yeah.
then maybe it's not so because Chief, you want to cheer for Chief at the end,
I could never, I could never look at Juicy Fruit without saying it the way Chief did. And sorry.
All right, so there's my piece. I don't want to drag it out, but that's Nurse Ratched number
All right.
5.
Where's Ratchet?
Nurse
man?
Ratchet,
Yeah.
fair enough. I always remember Nurse Diesel, Clarissa Leachman from High
Oh,
Anxiety.
jeez, from high anxiety, yeah.
Yeah. Nurse
No
Diesel,
one gets
more
fucked
discipline.
up.
She's got Harvey Korman
Well, if
tied
you
up in
ever
the.
get a chance to watch an Australian comedy show called Let the Blood Run Free, you can meet the ultimate evil nurse, who is Matron Dorothy Conniving Bitch. Wonderful role, wonderful
Is that
name.
her
It
big
also
name?
has a villain called Richard Lovechild, or Dick Bastard for short.
Oh Jesus!
That's a little on the nose, but okay.
You're gonna,
Is that her maiden name, or is she marrying to that?
Yeah.
Julia. You're gonna have to DM me that on
Yeah.
on X. I definitely am gonna have to search for that. That sounds like fun.
All right, Eric, your number 5, numero 5.
Shit, how do I follow up what Julia just said? You said
As
it during
best you
your
can,
honor-
man. As
yeah,
best
you
you
said
can.
it during your honorable mention, Mike. What makes a great villain sometimes is a villain that believes what they're doing is right.
Yes.
And this has been a favorite of mine, starting in print and then making it to the big screen, played by 2 different actors. I prefer Sir Ian McKellen as Magneto from the X-Men franchise.
Okay.
And first off, you can't
Ah.
get, it's hard to get any better than Ian McKellen in anything.
Mhm.
But what I love about this is he truly believes that mutants are superior than humans. And because he is a Holocaust survivor, from Auschwitz, he knows what it's like to be pursued and persecuted because of being different. And that fuels his hatred. And that's what I think is really, really good, because he knows what'll happen now that he's, he was different as a Jewish child during World War II, but now he is a mutant. You know what I mean? He's looked at as different, and now he's old enough. He knows how to use his mutant powers to achieve that goal. And what's also great about him is kind of like what I mentioned with Eric Quaylen. He's not afraid to sacrifice anybody on his team to get to the final goal. And an example is the 3rd movie where everybody's getting blown to shit. You know what I mean? And he's got this huge army of mutants, and they're running into the, I guess you would say, the hospital, and the X-Men, they're doing the final standoff. And Pyro's getting ready to run in. He says, wait, you let the pawns go first. You know what I mean? So if you got to sacrifice half your army to take out 90% of your opposition, you do it.
Yep.
And that's what I really, really love about him. And again, he's got great chemistry.
He's full on homicidal dictator mode, isn't he? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
he's
then
Pol Pot.
Well, there's him and Rebecca Romaine Stamos,
leave
who
it there.
plays Mystique, is, they got great chemistry, and they make it seem like they might have been lovers. We're talking about the first 3 films. But once she gets hit with that cure and she loses her powers, he looks at her and he says something like, because she
You're
looks at him
wrong.
and begs for help. She says, "Sorry, darling, you're not
Yeah.
one of us anymore." He
Yeah.
doesn't give two
Yeah.
shits.
Yeah.
That's ice
I-
cold.
It's amazing. After that happened, he walks away and he says to himself, "She was so beautiful." And
Yes,
it's funny
she was.
because who's laying on the floor is Rebecca Romaine
Romaine.
Stamos. She's buck naked, you know, but he's thinking of the mutants, you know, Mystique. You know, he doesn't see her as just a beautiful human. You know, she's lost her, you know, whatever, her mojo.
He's also not afraid to team up with his enemies to get what he wants, but still backstab him in the end. In the second film, he has to team up with the X-Men to stop what the William Stryker to do what they need to do. But then at the end, he still betrays everybody, and he's going to have every single human in the world eradicated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, he gets what he wants in both ways until, of course, you know, the X-Men defeat him type of thing. But that is what I think is a great villain. They believe what they're doing is right. They have a little bit of history with why they were turned the way they were turned, and anybody and everybody's up for sacrifice for them to achieve their final goal. And Ian McKellen is just he's so cold, but he's still so fucking charismatic. And the thing about that is, put that still back up, Mike, that overlay. Look how fucking goofy he looks in live action. You know what I mean? But you still believe his performance and how dangerous he can be, because that's how great of a performance Ian gives.
I thought my best, the best Magneto was Ian. Well, Fassbender was good too, but I loved Days of Future Past at the end when they're about to die. And Ian McKellen realizes, just a minute before they're about to die, that he had wasted his whole life trying. They had wasted all that time trying to kill each other.
That's what he says to
trying
Charles.
To fight each other. He's like, "I'm sorry." And he realizes it was just all pointless. You know, and I mean, because they went through those 3 movies, and then years later they come back with Days of Future Past. It almost feels like a lifetime that they've been fighting. It was really well done, and I'm glad that they brought McKellen back for that particular role. You know, to play it in 2 different timelines. Good stuff.
And you needed someone of his caliber to pull it off.
Oh
yeah.
Especially right there next to Patrick Stewart. They were great.
That's why the X-Men, like the rebooted ones, kind of turned me off, because it's like, no disrespect to Fassbender, but like I was so invested in Ian McKellen in that part, and it's like now you're saying, oh wait, we're doing this with a different actor. It's, I don't know, it just because you're going to have a different approach and different all that stuff.
I wouldn't say it's a different approach. I mean, he's still playing, Fassbender's still playing the same character. You know, I know. He's just younger. He's still hunting down Nazis and killing them in plain sight. You know, in first class. So
when he gets that gold tooth, that
monster was great.
Yeah, when he pulls that fucking filling out of that Nazi's tooth from across the bar in Argentina.
When he finally gets his hands,
hardcore, man.
Oh yeah, when he finally gets his hands on Kevin Bacon, the guy that killed his mother in Auschwitz,
with the coin.
And he slowly pushes the coin through his forehead. Yeah, Magneto didn't give no fucks, no matter how old or young he was.
That's right. I have no fucks to give.
That's a great character. All right, good call. All right, Julia, you're up. Numero 5. What do you got for us? Your 5th favorite movie villain.
I have my 5th favorite movie villain, Dorothy Yates, the cannibal killer from Frightmare. The 1970, I think it was 1974, this movie came out. There's another movie with the same name much later. I have no idea what that one's like. What can I say? This is Sheila Keith, and you probably do not know her. Now, I want to say straight up that I love Vincent Price, Peter Cushing, Boris Karloff, wonderful actors. But they were together in a film called The House of Long Shadows with Sheila Keith, who had a rather small role, I'm afraid. She is scarier than the other 4 put together. She is so fucking vicious. She comes across initially as this slightly dotty old lady who's a little bit lost and she's not quite sure where everything is. and she thinks little animals come into her house to look at her during the daytime. And then, just when you think you've got this slightly dotty old lady, the curtain drops a little bit and you see a slightly vicious dotty old lady. And then she runs you through the stomach with a red hot flaming poker.
Okay.
And then, if that isn't enough, she cuts bits off you and eats them. And if that isn't enough, she carves off your face with a drill just for kicks.
Woo.
Because why not? Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
she actually inspired the video nasty driller killer. That's Abel.
Right.
What's his face? Forgive me, I've forgotten his name. Abel Ferrer, something like that. And he changed the sex because, well, he just didn't. I don't think he could find a female actress that he thought could play the role as well. What you've got with her, she does the passive aggressive thing. She manipulates everybody around her. She's got her husband who'll do anything for her. She's got a stepdaughter who's willing to pretend to be a serial killer for her. The daughter is giving her animal brains, which Dorothy thinks is human flesh, or Dorothy pretends to think is human flesh, which is supposed to help assuage her desire for blood. She gets her 15-year-old daughter in on the act. Turns out the 15-year-old daughter likes playing about with a drill as well. And in the end, she gets her... Oh dear, it's so sad. Actually, it's really grim. I have to point this out. It is really grim. It's what I would call a genuine horror movie, because instead of laughing and cheering on the kills, as many people do, it's just too bloody horrible that she's killing her stepdaughter. And worst of all, her husband, the girl's natural born father, can't do anything, can't bring himself to do anything about it. He loves his wife too much. Hey.
Jeez.
So what can I say? It's extremely
Christ,
heavy.
this is number
It's extremely
5.
gruesome. It's extremely good.
Oh, where are we gonna go after this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out your whiskey, fellas. Jesus Christ. Julia's got the bummers tonight.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Need some.
All right. Dorothy Yates, you heard it here first. All right. Julia's number 5. Has anybody else seen the movie?
Mm-mm. What's it
Okay.
called again?
I'm sure I'd remember if I did.
Yeah, right?
What's it called?
Frightmare.
Okay,
Frightmare.
Frightmare. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. All right. You heard it here first. Frightmare with Dorothy Yates from Frightmare. All right. Number 5. Ryan, what do you got for
All
us?
right. Okay. Well, you guys, it just happened that I did it by genre. It wasn't on purpose. One of my favorite genres, probably my most favorite movie genre, is Westerns. I had to pick my favorite Western villain, and in the vein of not giving a fuck, I picked Angel Eyes from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh,
There you go.
there you go.
There he is.
Oh,
There you
Lee
go.
Lee
Van
Van
Cleef.
Cleef.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. His name is Angel Eyes. Actually, Clint Eastwood named him that. In the original Italian movie, he's called Sentenza, the sentence or the judgment. He is purely driven by greed. He just looks reptilian. I love it. Like he's the way he just looks, his face, the eyes, everything. I mean, in his first scene, he blows away a whole family. He's not above killing kids. He goes to his employer looking for this Confederate gold. He goes to his employer, his employer who told him to go shoot that family. He goes to his employer and kills that guy. He puts a pillow over his face and shoots him through the pillow, and he laughs about it. He's totally driven by greed. It's just what makes him tick. And he's charismatic. He goes so far as to enlist in the Union Army because it takes place during the Civil War. I know you've all seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And he enlists in the Civil War as like an officer just so he can find out where the gold is. He tortures people. He beats people up. He is just totally ruthless. I mean, he's absolutely wonderful to watch. I think it's Lee Van Cleef's best role, and he's absolutely a treat to watch. And he's almost a match for Clint Eastwood at that last showdown in the cemetery when they're all there. That's when his pride gets the better of him. When they're in that cemetery having that Mexican standoff, and he doesn't even get to pull his gun out before Blondie blows him away right into a grave, which is kind of the icing on the cake. But he's a fantastic villain, and he's iconic. You know, he's the iconic Man in Black, and you know, he's so great to watch.
All right. Van Cleef is one of those guys that I feel never got his due.
Yeah,
he probably could have gotten some better. I don't know if it was just he never got cast correctly. He's like Charles Bronson. You know, Bronson started out in these cool movies playing a total badass, and then he ended up doing like TV movies, playing like Family of Cops or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's like kind of what happened to Lee Van Cleef, because you had him in these awesome westerns. His first performance, by the way, was in High Noon, and he was one of the thugs in that. And you know, then he went on to do like Master Ninja and like these other.
I love that show, The Master. I love The Master.
But I mean, you know, you're right though. He never. I don't think he ever really got his due.
I
also wrote a song about him, so that's something.
Yeah. But no, this role is definitely, this character is, I think, the epitome of the kind of Western villain. You know, the he fits all the tropes. You know,
All right.
Inspiration for Cad Bane in the Star Wars universe.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Fair enough. All right, John, number 5. What do you got for us?
All right, I had a film writer named Joe Stinson who wrote Heartbreak Ridge, and he wrote Sudden Impact, and I got to work with him for 3 years. And he played a villain in a play that I wrote, and he thanked me because he said the heroes get all the accolades, the heroes get the great lines. And I love a good villain. I mean, a villain gets all the great lines. They get like all those funny lines. And the one I picked for number 5, one of my favorite villains is King Longshanks from Braveheart.
I forgot about him. Yeah.
I came close to picking Katharine Hepburn from Eleanor of Aquitaine from Lion in Winter. I came close to picking Alan Rickman in Robin Hood because they have such great lines. But I picked Longshanks because not only did he say lines like, you know, send in the Irish, they're cheaper than arrows, or throw his son's boyfriend out a window after the guy dared to say that he was trained in the art of war.
Yep.
But he was also evil. He was also, and I know
he was also evil.
I mean, I know it's probably not historically accurate, but I don't care.
Right.
He was deliciously bad. And at times I laughed, and there's other times I went, oh my God. You know, I mean, you know, that type I mean, they were going to send Wallace. He goes, I could send my son, but he would march to the castle. So he sends his daughter-in-law. You know, I'm like, how cold are you, dude? You know, that type deal. And I love that fact. Comical, yes. Still mean, still malevolent, an evil prick. That's it.
Well said.
What happens in that movie? What really takes you aback? And I saw part of it the other day. I was over at my dad's house, and it just happened to be on, and so I was flipping through the channels. Is the brutality? Just the wanton fucking brutality, and you're like they trap these soldiers in this house, and then they just set it on fire and just burn these guys alive, and it's like a 30-second scene, you know, and that is just like a small piece of how brutal that is. You know, with the prima nocta when he
that was
I do like his comeuppance though. I like when he's just in that bed dying of whatever illness
and she whispers in his ear.
Yeah, he can't do a thing about it, and just the look on his face is like, oh, like she beat me, kind of thing.
Scott was still on the throne.
He just spends he spends all his time coughing himself to death. Just an awful. Like in the beginning scene when little Wallace goes into that house, and like they've arranged a meeting like a parlay, and they just hang
Yeah.
everybody, and he
Yeah.
walks in, and it's all those fucking corpses just
Yep.
hanging
Yeah.
from the. You're like, oh my god, this like what the fuck kind of movie is
First-
this?
His first line is the problem with Scotland is that it's full of
Well,
Scots.
Scott.
And I'm
Yes.
going, son of a bitch.
But that was the English attitude.
But I know, and
Yeah.
and that's why, you know, because somebody when I was picking the list said, well, I don't think it's a real interpretation. I'm like, I don't care. You know,
No, that's like
But
when
what really
in
is
my
somebody watch
Shakespeare
the
class.
documentary.
In
You
my
know?
Shakespeare class, when we read Macbeth, and we learned, like, yes, the English believed that the Scots were these pagan,
Mhm.
devil worshipping barbarians, and
Mhm.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Well, I
I
mean,
really
you,
did,
you have
man.
to.
And-
You can't appreciate.
I love
I was-
Patrick McGoohan anyway. I love
Yeah.
him as a performer. You know,
Well, I was just reading this manga the other day, Innocent, I think it's called, and it's about Charles Henri Sanson, who was the high executioner for Paris
Oh, wow.
at the time of the French Revolution, and he guillotined. He was a real person. He guillotined
Yeah.
Louis XVI. He guillotined Marie Antoinette. Years later, he guillotined Robespierre. You know, and like over the course, I think of 30 years or 40 years or something like that. As a high
Boy.
executioner, he facilitated up to 4,000 executions.
Mhm.
jeez.
So I mean, that's what is that? I don't know. I don't even know how many that is per year.
I
That's
would love to get into that guy's psyche. How did that affect him mentally? You
Well,
know?
he would devise more humane ways of trying to, like, if you had to draw and quarter somebody, what he would do before that, while the crowd wasn't really paying attention, is he would garrote them.
Oh,
And just
kill
kill
them
them real
first?
quick. Yeah, just
Yeah,
crush
yeah,
the
yeah.
windpipe. And he's like, it'd be
Mhm.
quick, but it'd be better than like that or being broken on the wheel or something like that. But it's just
Yeah.
that brutality back then, man. It's just
He also drank a
holy
lot.
shit.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, yeah, I can
Probably.
It makes
imagine.
more sense to
Yeah.
cut the femoral artery whilst you were pretending to quarter, but
Mhm.
oh well.
Hmm.
Just a thought.
You would have made a
Sorry,
great
I think about
executioner.
these things.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That brings me to my number 5. And I was telling people when I started to get into this that I was having a lot of trouble coming up with a list. There were a couple I came up with right away, and I almost like put Shooter McGavin on the list just for shits and giggles because he is just a dastardly bastard.
Shooter.
He ends up blaming Happy for killing Chubbs. And all these different things. And I always thought the Shooter would be a great villain because from his perspective, he thinks he's right. And he is right.
Yeah.
Happy Gilmore is like ruining the culture of golf.
Yeah.
He's ruining this thing that he loves. And he's like, I just saw two fat naked bikers having sex. I was 17. He's like, how the hell am I supposed to chip with that going on? And he's absolutely right. Like, I play golf. I was on the team in high school. That would, like, you can't fucking chip with, like, two people are having sex right off the fucking, they can't do it. But I didn't put him in there. I went with someone who is just like a person that has just lost their humanity. And you only get this inference that at some point he had it because by the time you meet him, you don't understand it. But you quickly understand very quickly, you quickly understand afterwards, not long afterwards, that it's just absolutely gone. And I think this person is kind of an empty vessel. I went with Stephen Boyd as Masala in Ben-Hur.
Oh,
Ooh, there you go.
Oh, wow.
This
Nice
is a
ball.
person that was best friends with the protagonist, childhood friends, growing up together as young men and boys. Doing all the things that young men and boys do. He goes away to, come back to Judea as the head of the army. And they seem to be friends at first until Charlton Heston realizes that he actually wants him to, like, be an informant against his own people for the Romans. And when, Heston refuses to do that, then he very quickly uses an accident to just condemn the whole family, sends Heston's mother and sister to the dungeons, doesn't kill Heston. He's not even like humane enough to kill him. he sends him onto these boats to basically just be tortured and worked to death. For no reason, and completely understanding, and this is a great, Christian example, completely understanding that the people he's condemning are completely innocent.
Yeah.
They're completely innocent of what they're being condemned for. And he does it anyway, just to make an example of them. So he can increase his status and power. And even at the end of his life, as he's dying there, from that accident in the chariot race, he tries to inject more venom and spite into Heston's heart by telling him that his mother and sister are still alive after all those years. It's just black he's just black on the inside. There's no redeeming qualities to this at all. I mean, I guess he feels he's right because he's completely Roman. And so, the Roman Empire must win, so on and so forth. But he's just rotten to the core. Right? And with his dying breath, still trying to spew more evil.
Stab at thee.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, with his dying breath, I stab at thee.
Yeah. Just
Captain Ahab.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. Yeah, I haven't read that in
Captain
a while.
Ahab, I think that last line was his.
Yeah.
I may be misremembering.
And it's funny because I was thinking of Wrath of Khan
Wrath
with,
of Khan.
when he says at the end, you can't get away. With my last breath, from heaven's heart, I stab at thee. With my last breath, I spit at thee.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Captain
felt
Ahab.
like he does. Every time I saw that, I love that character. My good call.
Yes.
Good call.
One of my probably one of my top 10 favorite films, and like most of the films that I really love, I don't watch it very often because I never want to tire of it. Maybe I get around to it at Easter time, that kind of thing. It's usually an Easter Sunday kind of watch. It's about 4 hours long, but it's just beautiful to watch. It's a beautiful story. So Stephen Boyd,
and beautifully shot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cinematic wise too, it's a beautiful movie to watch.
It's beautifully written. It's beautifully written. When that woman Esther tells Charlton Heston that the stone that fell from that house all those years ago is still falling, because all Heston wants is revenge.
Right.
He's just he just wants blood for what's happened to him. Fantastic. All right, Bill, we're moving on. Oh wait, hold on. We got some comments here. Let's get to some of these comments. The Ginger Ninja, he says Shooter McGavin. Shooter McGavin is absolutely right. And he was right. This is kind of like the Ferris Bueller, Ed Rooney kind of thing. Like I look at it now, I'm like, Ferris Bueller's a little asshole. He is. He's a little asshole. Like you thought he was the hero when you were 16. You're like, this guy's a douchebag. If somebody, Okay. Marty says Henry Fonda's Frank from Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yes.
Yeah,
He wasn't sure why Leone picked him until someone stood during the movie after he shot the kid, screamed, "Holy shit, that's Henry fucking Fonda!" Yeah. Dressed all in black. I think going back to Lithgow, he's saying it's got to be Ricochet. Maybe that was the movie he was thinking John was talking about.
That was a good movie.
Snippy Cutwell agrees, but I'm not sure about what. Haven't gotten to the comments. Another frightening movie, Snippy says, Tammy and the Millionaire. I don't know that one.
Never heard of it.
Okay.
I'll look that up.
Is that offer still there to hop in? Yeah, I'll put the link in the comment. I'm going to do it right now. Hold on. And then we will get to number 4. All right, it's in the comment. Let me share. All right, Bill, what do you got for us? Your fourth pick for favorite villain.
All right, so like I said, doing this list sort of got me to put my literature hat on again. And I was thinking about motivations for villains, and one of the scariest, most unnerving sort of type of villain is the bad guy who is disguised and shielded by being a good guy. All right. So the number 4 that I picked It's a movie that I haven't watched since I was in college, but that's a testament to how impactful this villain is. I'm talking about the movie Leon the Professional. I'm talking about Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
There you go.
Holy crap.
Oh, yeah. He's evil.
What a bad guy. I mean, this guy, from the moment that he takes that benzo and does his little dance, and you look on his the look on his face, you're like, holy shit, this guy is not right. But then he turns completely calm, and that's unnerving. And he's talking about Beethoven and how much he loves calm right before he just walks into a room and blasts 5 people with a shotgun. It is an amazing, amazing performance by Gary Oldman. I love this guy, and he is at the top, the height of his powers in this movie. This has got to be the top performance of his young career. Holy Stanfield. This was actually a tie with another character called Detective Bruce Robinson from a less known movie and book by Irvine Welsh called Filth. So it's the same thing. This cop hiding behind the shield and pulling all sorts of evil. But I highly recommend that book as well. Filth by Irvine Welsh.
I haven't watched the movie yet, but I intend to one day. It's got John Sessions in it. You know how I like John Sessions.
So good, bringing it to the screen, so fantastic. But enough of that. We're talking about Stansfield and Gary Oldman. Someone said, chewing up the scenery like steak. That is 100% Oldman's mission. He turned that movie from the 2 main characters. He just steals the entire movie from them. I watched that movie and I remember just him. I forgot half of the plot because it was just, I was so enthralled by this villain. So that is number 4.
Great choice, dude.
I think what unnerved me so much about him was that it's not that he was just crazy. It was that he was completely drugged out. So you were just like, there's no talking to this guy. Like, he's not in his right fucking mind.
And the weird part is the drug that he's taking helps him stay calm. So if he wasn't on that drug, what kind of maniac would he be?
Little did we know, that we were going to be getting 30 more years of great performances. That might have been my first exposure to Earl Oldman. I didn't see Sid and Nancy. That might have been my first exposure to him, and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then you see Romance,
True Romance,
Drexel,
Drexel,
the range, and you're just like, "Holy shit, fucking great performance."
If you watch nothing else, just pull it up on YouTube if you've never seen the movie, and just watch when he tells his henchmen, "Get everyone." What do you mean? Everyone. So I think it's a good villain, man.
It's the solo performance he gave. I admire.
it's like when he's in the hallway and that old lady comes out. Why don't you leave those nice people alone? And he just pulls it like a 44 and just shoots like the fucking light out. Oh, he said, "Go back inside." She just looks and she just goes back inside. Okay, I just got the treat of watching. What's up, Marty? First of all, I should say, what's up, Marty? Thanks for joining us, man.
No, but sorry about this. I was busy. I wanted to do catch up with you guys, so I compiled the list so I can go from my 4 if you want, or am I fucking making it too heavy?
No.
Heavy.
No. We'll drop in on 4. But first of all, what's up? And then I'll roll you in. I don't have an overlay for you, but we'll make it work.
No bother.
What was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. But I just got the chance to watch him in Slow Horses, which he runs these reject MI5 agents that are just kind of fuck ups, and he just does nothing but abuse them the entire time. And it's funny to watch, but at the same time, he sort of builds them into a team. And it's on Apple TV. If you get a chance to watch Slow Horses, there are 3 seasons of it. They're only about 6 episodes per season. British thriller series. Fantastic stuff. He's so good.
The range that Oldman has, because he could go through all these characters. One of my favorites by him is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, that he did with Tim Roth. And he's doing comedy, and he's playing food. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then he could turn around and do something like Stansfield. And then he could turn around and do something like Sid and Nancy. Too good, man.
Yeah. I've criticized the movie, but I've always said his performance was great in Dracula. He worked with the script they had, and for the most part, I think he pulled it off. I'm not a fan of the movie. I've wanted to be a fan of the movie for a long time. I just eventually just gave up. But yeah.
Whoa! How could you say that?
Yeah, right. All right, let's move on to Marty. Let's get in here. What's your number 4? Let's get Marty in. I'm going to put you in between Bill and Eric.
Okay, my number 4 is Colonel Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah.
Christoph Waltz is brilliant in this fucking role because he is a contradiction both deliberately and accidentally. He kind of gives off this kind of prestige in culture, but he's helping murder innocent fucking people. But he's also contradictory in what he says, because there's one scene where he's gloating about being, they called me the Jew hunter because I'm a great detective.
Right.
And then when he's talking to Brad Pitt, he's like, the Jew hunter was a name that was given to me. It's like, you are so full of fucking shit, and you know it. And like, even to reinforce his bullshit, like he himself, he believes his own shit, because he talks to Brad Pitt about like fucking over the Third Reich, but when he's talking about British von Hammersmark, he's like, that treacherous bitch. It's like, fucking get on the fucking one plane you're going with. You're full of shit. You're lying, and he has fun with it as well, because the bit where Eli Roth and Brad Pitt, they're trying to do their Italian. He's like, but he knows they're fucking, he knows they're lying, but he's just playing along. So Christoph Waltz has to be number 4. Colonel Hans Landa, fucking best Tarantino villain ever. I think.
Good choice, dude.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. All right. And that was my first exposure to Christoph Waltz.
Same here.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, he blew me away right out of the gate.
Yeah,
he's another one who can play all kinds of characters. Like like he was, and then he turns around and does Django Unchained, and he's great in that. It's
great when he shoots DiCaprio. When he shoots,
Dr. King resist.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah. I didn't care for him as Blofeld, but that's just, I
liked him. I liked him as Blofeld. I did. I thought that he was. I think what was scary about him was that he was an angry child. Okay. And so you realize that resentment ran so deep in him, like there was never going to be anything you could do to, And I was, this guy's just lost in his, childhood resentments. All right, Eric, number 4. What do you got for us?
Okay, number 4. Okay, we're gonna go back almost 90 years for this character.
Oh boy!
Big part of my childhood. I'm sure she could have been a big part of at least someone else's childhood on this group. A character that was so scary that she had to go on a children's show to prove that it was just make believe. Margaret Hamilton in The Wizard of Oz as the Wicked Witch of the West. This performance.
She was a teacher. She was a teacher, Margaret Hamilton.
Jesus Christ, can you imagine that? Holy shit.
Yeah.
What I love about her is just, before she's even the Wicked Witch of the Witch, when she plays Mrs. Gulch, she's got one of the most recognizable, other than Darth Vader, she's probably got the most recognizable theme songs, in all music, movie history, in my opinion. So you already know that, she's bad news. She wants to put the dog to sleep because she got bit. But then once she becomes this wicked witch, it's a fantastic transformation when she's on the bike into being on the
that's a cool
in the
scene.
tornado.
Yeah. Yep.
as funny as it sounds, it's, one woman wanting to kill another woman over a pair of fucking shoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you
It's
look,
quite normal to me.
but if you look, she didn't give a shit about her sister. She didn't give a shit about her sister. She wanted the shoes. She wanted power, and she was willing to kill anyone, including a 12-year-old girl, to get to it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 12.
Yeah, killing. She's willing to kill dogs, and what I like about it is she enjoys it. You know what I mean? When she does that whole "how about a little fire scarecrow," she's having fun, taunting him before she tries to set him on fire. She's willing to, with the scene with the poppies, she's willing to have Dorothy sleep forever. And she realizes, that fucked up. All right, I'm gonna kidnap her, and I'm just gonna kill her. You know what I mean? And then I'll get the shoes that way.
Surrender, Dorothy.
That's a terrifying scene when they're in Oz and she does the smoke and everything.
Yeah.
But a scene that has terrified children so many, and it still does, is when she's sending her army of the flying monkeys. It's the performance of her with the little person in the suit where she's talking to him, and then when she just looks out and she's telling them all to fly, and you see this massive army in the background. She is so good. And I just love her performance. And like I said, is for context, and we pretty much all know it, but she terrified so many children. She went on Mr. Rogers to explain that it was all make-believe.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's makeup. On Sesame Street, too.
Yeah, too. Yeah.
Well, she was on Sesame Street as the Wicked Witch of the West, and they pulled that episode from rotation because it scared so many children. And what I love about this, just one sec, is it shows how great of an actress she was. I only know her from this movie, right? Yeah. Unless she's a background character. I'm like, oh, hey, I didn't know it was her. When you see her in interviews, when she's on Mr. Rogers, she seems like the sweetest woman in the world. But that shows how great of an actress she is because she's just so malevolent. She is, pun intended, so wicked, so evil. But like I said, she's willing to kill a child to get what she wants. Doesn't give a shit about that her sister was killed just for power.
Right.
And that's what I think is truly evil. She's willing to kill a child for power.
Judy Garland said that her and I can't remember her name now, the Wicked Witch, stayed friends for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Up until, and things like that, because she was such a lovely woman. And they cut stuff out of that movie because after the first preview showing, children were weeping. They couldn't.
Yeah.
And they cut it to make her more comical. So somebody said there's an uncut version of it. And part of me wants to see it. Part of me is afraid. Because she was almost on my list. She came very, very close.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when we did this, and this was the last musical I directed at the high school. And I kind of put in some elements of the book character into her portrayal, because in the book it's interesting, she carries an umbrella. Why? Because she's allergic to water. That's why she melts. I thought that was a neat little detail. So I had my Wicked Witch carry around this umbrella. But it's funny, I was just looking at Margaret Hamilton's acting credits. She did a lot, dude. She was in 13 Ghosts.
Yeah,
and she was in Brewster McCloud. She was in a ton of stuff. That I didn't know. That's interesting.
She did the Folgers coffee commercial when I was a kid.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The original Folgers coffee when it came out. It was her selling it. And all of a sudden, because I'm like, she looked familiar. My mom started laughing. She goes, it's the Wicked Witch from the West. I'm like,
change the channel. Change the fucking channel.
Change the channel.
Right now. Not fucking around. All right, well, that's about as scary as it gets. That's way worse than Pazuzu. Jesus Christ. All right, let's get with Julia. Julia, what do you got for us?
Well, I swapped something around on you, so I hope I've got it in the right order. But I'm choosing. I am choosing the gangster Pinky Brown in Brighton Rock, the original version.
Yeah.
Now he looks very vulnerable and helpless here, and because he is just having his face sliced by another gangster. This is Richard Attenborough, who I think is one of the best horror actors ever.
Wow,
So he's
that's a
not
really
mainly
young.
known for that. He's mainly known for running the British film industry, pretty much during the 80s, bless him. But you see him as a young man. Firstly, I personally think he's extremely attractive in a sort of in a pretty sort of way. But Pinky Brown seems to be, at first glance, an innocent, or he's almost a child. In fact, I think he's something pathetically small, like 17 or 18 in this. I've also read the book several times as well as seen the movie. And he's a gangster. He's doing awfully well for his age because he's extremely vicious. He's quite capable of killing people. Another gangster in the movie takes him very much for a child, very much underestimates him. But what makes me put him down as a villain is there is this little girl. She's a waitress. She's legal, only just. She has to have her parents' consent in order to get married. She finds a piece of evidence that links Pinky Brown to a murder. And so he decides to court her, and then he decides the best way to shut her up. First, initially he was for killing her, but then he decides he marries her, you see. Then she can't possibly give testimony against him because it was a law at the time that a woman cannot give testimony against her husband. And then it seems he's planning to kill her anyway because she's innocent, she's naive. There's a woman called Ida, I can't remember the name of the Hermione Gingold, I think, who plays, she's investigating the death of the man that Pinky killed. And she's trying very hard to save this waitress. Her name is Rose. She's innocent. She's Catholic. Her parents don't give a stuff about her. Pinky pretty much buys her from her parents in order to get them to sign the permission for her to marry. And if that isn't bad enough, this is back in the late 1940s, 1950s. Technology is quite primitive, but you can go into a fun fair, into a booth, and you can record your voice on a record for a small fee. And he records, I pretty much remember the words, "You want me to say, I love you. Well, I hate you." And then he goes on to describe just how he hates her. Then he gives her the record. Well, she doesn't have access to a record player. The long and the short of it is, he dies, good, and she goes back, lonely widow, to listen to the record. In the movie, the record sticks, so she never gets to hear him say that he hates her. In the book, we don't know, but this is, what, I guess I'm talking more about Rose, because this is based on a novel by Graham Greene. Graham Greene was a devout Catholic.
Yeah.
Rose believes in hell. She is willing to go to hell for Pinky's sake because she thinks he loves her.
Yeah.
Hey, what can I say? It's incredibly good acting. The depiction of gangster life in the late 1940s, early 50s seems to me about as authentic as you can get. We do it differently in England. It's not Italian Americans, it's Maltese versus English people. And there's notable for the use of a form of British slang called Polari. There's some Polari words are worked into this. This is pretty much a dead language, so some people are trying to revive it. And this was a lost street language based on Italian and Romany. So, gosh, I'm off on a tangent there. Viewers probably don't give a stuff about this, but the film itself is remarkable. Beautifully shot. Richard Attenborough is terrifying and deserved to die. Sorry, his character did.
The book. Graham Greene is actually one of my favorite authors. So I have just about every Graham Greene book that there is. I've read this book. Yeah, you're right. I've never seen the movie, but it's
watch it.
Graham Greene did not write bad, works. He wrote fantastic, top tier things. So yeah, and there is this. There's always a tragic sort of thing that happens in his books. Yeah, but they're just you can't put them down. They're almost all train wrecks, but you can't put them down because they're so damn good. So all right, maybe I'll get around to watching that sometime. Brighton Rock,
Hope so.
rough stuff. All right, Ryan, what do you got for us? Your number 4.
All right. Well, I had to pick a Star Wars villain because Star Wars is one of my favorites, but I didn't pick Vader or the Emperor. I picked the guy, the third man in line of power, my favorite Star Wars villain, Grand Moff Tarkin. All right, Peter Cushing, the man. All right, I love that look on his face. That's a perfect shot you got there. He is the one man in the entire Imperial Empire, all right, the entire empire, who can backtalk Vader, who takes his orders from the Emperor himself. He's cold, he's manipulative, he's a military man, all right, first and foremost. He's all about just making sure the empire lasts as long as it can. He created the doctrine of fear, the Tarkin doctrine that the emperor, that the empire kind of went by. He came up with the idea for the Death Star, and I love that he steals it from Krennic in Rogue One. He's just like, I'm taking it. You built it, but I came up with this, so I'm taking it. He's it. He's the man everybody answers to. And Peter Cushing just turned in such an awesome performance. And I remember reading that he was so bummed that he died in it because he had so much fun on the movie. He wanted to be in the second one, but he was so bummed that he got blown up, But Tarkin dies because of his own hubris. Again, another character who's done in by his own excessive pride. He won't evacuate his baby. He won't leave his baby, and he pays for it. He gets blown up, but he's a great character. I love that he's just evil in that bureaucratic way.
My favorite scene with him is when he blows up Alderaan after faking out Leia. You know what I mean? You're far too trusting. You may fire when ready.
Yeah. He doesn't care. Okay, I'm just and he has his reasons for blowing up Alderaan because he knew Bail Organa was a traitor, and boom, that's it. So he's great the way he handles Vader, and that's why Vader is the way he is in Empire Strikes Back, because Tarkin's dead. He has nobody to hold him back anymore. So but yeah, Tarkin's the man. I mean, I love this.
It's appropriate that at least Peter Cushing got on here once.
Yeah.
He played, as much as I've enjoyed watching him play the hero as Van Helsing and so on and so forth. I think he was a better villain. His Dr. Frankenstein is maybe the most frightening thing I've seen. Frankenstein. Yeah, he's just a murderer.
I think in this case, I think Cushing often gets overlooked in A New Hope because of Alec Guinness, and we don't realize that. Yeah, man, Tarkin's a nasty motherfucker.
I think he put a much better acting performance than Guinness did. I mean,
I think so.
Great actor,
I think so.
Tinker Tailor, all that kind of stuff. Bridge over
and because Cushing, I think Cushing was aware of the movie he was in, and he had fun with it. And he played an asshole. Whereas, we know the stories of Alec Guinness, how he felt about it afterward and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I think Cushing's way more. I agree in that he's way more fun to watch. He's just a more fun character, than Obi-Wan. So, and he wore slippers through the whole movie because his boots were too tight. So,
that's true.
He wore slippers. That's awesome.
He asked him to shoot from the waist up.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, John, what do you got for us? Number 4, 90 minutes, and we're still on 4. Good grief.
Number 4 for me is I've always liked the unrelenting type villain. It's usually an animal. Bruce, The shark from Jaws is a good one. There was a bear. There was a movie called Grizzly in 1978.
Oh, geez,
That
yeah.
was one. I love those type of movies where it's this thing. But there was one that I saw when I was a kid, and it terrified me. And it fits in both categories because it started off as a television film in the United States, and it was so popular, it got movie released in Europe back in 1971. It's called Duel. And the villain is the truck in Duel.
Yeah, Spielberg.
That's right. It was Steven Spielberg's first, technically, it was his first theatrical release. Starred Dennis Weaver.
Yep.
And then the thing about it is, you saw maybe the driver of the truck once or twice, but it's the truck. It's the character, man.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Weaver cuts him off, tells him, don't you know where you're driving? They're riding through the Badlands, and the truck is chasing after him.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like a relentless creature. I mean, by the time they have their final confrontation, I mean, the truck has a smash that makes it look like a grin. Weaver realizes he knows he has to destroy him. There's a scene that people keep forgetting that it was a school bus was getting ready to fall over, and the truck saved it.
Mm-hmm.
But then went after Weaver because Weaver caused the accident for the truck. Unrelenting, unstopping. My personal opinion is, even after I saw it when I was a kid, Mike knows this too. I was in a very serious car accident when I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
Was pronounced dead twice. Woke up in the morgue type deal. Did not get my driver's license until I was 28, almost 29, because I was terrified to be in the car.
Mm-hmm.
My mother got this movie on VHS and said, "Hey, remember this movie?" And we were watching it. I'm like,
oh no!
Wow.
For that reason. But the point about it was, it's that relenting, almost like a force of nature coming after it. And I wanted to go with something different. And when I remembered it, I looked it up, and I'm like, "Oh, good! I'm glad I found it."
Why wouldn't you want to kill Dennis Weaver?
Yeah,
I mean, really. Why wouldn't you want to kill Dennis Weaver?
That movie set the tone. It's been ripped off a bunch of times, like
the car. Remember
movie,
the car?
Joyride.
You remember Maximum Overdrive, and they had the truck with the goblin face?
Yeah.
They put the goblin face on it because they put the smash in on it on the grill.
Right.
And Stephen King said no. Because he was a fan of the movie.
Yes.
He was a fan of the movie Duel. He's like, no, you're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you put the goblin face. That's why they put the goblin face. So Green Goblin face.
Pretty cool.
All right, so the first inanimate villain that it makes it on the list tonight. That works.
Was either that or Transformers?
Well, yeah. I've been wondering. I've been sort of curious about watching those. Those Transformers movies.
Me too.
If they're any good. I mean, it's Michael Bay. I'm usually a fan of Michael Bay.
The first one's
I'm
decent.
not looking for, I know it's not Gandhi, but I mean,
no, it's
I
not.
think the first one's decent.
No. Hey,
Marty's like,
Ryan's
no,
right.
it's not.
The first one's good, and Bumblebee is good because that and Bumblebee are basically a teenager having their first car, owning their first car, and there just happens to be a robot from space. That's why the first one and Bumblebee works. The rest are just fucking noise and loud fucking loud.
Like every Michael Bay movie, though.
It's every Michael Bay movie.
Yeah, so you know what you're getting into.
It just
The
depends
first
on
one has some funny moments,
There's your movie.
Oh, God. All right. So that brings me back to myself, me, myself, and I. Me. And I'll be honest. This was my number 4, and this is the only villain on the list that was an actual person. I don't actually know how to describe him. He was so fucking awful, but the performance is just so fucking good, and this actor is always just so fucking good. I went with Ralph Fiennes as Amon Goeth in Schindler's List. I don't know can somebody help me describe this character? I don't. He's a Nazi. I mean, he's a real fucking Nazi in the camps. Randomly executed.
I know Nazis who look at him and go, "Wow, that's overboard, man."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The liquidation of the
Wouldn't
ghetto.
surprise me.
He just runs it, and he's just sitting there, and there are machine guns and kids and women, and people are just fucking dying, and he's just sitting there. He's like, I can't wait for this fucking night to be over. Like he just wants to go to bed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just randomly walking in and out of crowds, and just shooting people at random with his pistol. That little boy that he tries to get to scrub out his bathtub.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson tries to tell him, real power is like forgiving people. And like he tries it once, and then the second time he can't do it anymore, and he just shoots him.
Yeah.
It was a good performance in that scene, man, because he looked so awkward and vulnerable for half a second, and then went back to being the stone cold killer that he is.
Yeah, he's just. Go ahead.
No, he's a true believer who's beginning to doubt, type deal. Good Liam Neeson, but he truly believes in what he's doing. That's what makes him cold.
Yeah.
He's also terrifying in that these heinous acts, it's monotony to him now at this stage.
Yeah.
That's
That's
very
perfect.
thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
he's
another day
really
at the
happy.
office.
Yeah, he's like, Jesus Christ, when is this day over?
Aren't you people going to get it? We're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just holy shit. And like Ralph Fiennes is just one of my all-time favorite actors.
He plays a good
Period.
villain.
He's just a fucking
That
powerhouse.
was my
man.
first. I think that was my first exposure to him. Was this movie? That's the first time I saw him in
Me
something.
I
too.
think
Same
mine
here.
was the English. Mine was the English Patient because I was a literature major, so I read a lot of Ondaatje. And so when I found out that they were going to be putting Ondaatje on the big screen, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And it was that or the one where he does another one where in his first role he acted like Peter O'Toole. O'Toole's first role was playing Lawrence of Arabia. That was his introductory role.
Oh, okay.
Fiennes' introductory role is playing Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay.
And it's after the war is over. And it's about how they screwed Faisal out of Syria. He wanted to get to Damascus, and they screwed him out of it. And they end up giving him this new country that they just sort of cut up and invented called Iraq. He ends up becoming the leader of Iraq, and like he dies very young. Like he becomes ill and dies at like 44. He wasn't an old man like Alec Guinness. But Fiennes is just holy shit. And
First time I saw him was Red Dragon.
Red Dragon. Oh man.
The first time I saw him was Schindler's List. And as testimony to the power of his acting, I was later to develop a massive crush on Ralph Fiennes. I think I was seeing him in Quiz Show, which
Yes.
saw that.
I very much enjoyed.
Good
Also
movie.
seen him in The English Patient. But when watching him in Schindler's List, I not only did not notice he was attractive, but found him actually repulsive. He made my skin crawl. He made me, made my skin crawl. Testimony to the talent of, his skill, his talent.
Well, I
When-
think too.
Go
I
ahead,
think
Ryan.
too his portrayal in this, and I think with many people, really opened people's eyes to the atrocities of what the Nazis did and how they acted. I mean, this
The
was the
indifference.
movie. Yeah, this was the movie where Spielberg swore off making funny Nazis anymore, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. This was like the real deal. And it's a scary character because he embodied pretty much what all
He
the
was soulless,
Nazis
man.
did.
Yeah.
He was,
Well, he was the ideal Nazi. He was the ideal SS member. Yeah.
I mean, we can laugh about Hans Landa and stuff like that, but this guy was just a whole nother realm.
This is
Oh,
as
yeah.
close
And
as
of course,
probably
based
any of
on
us
a
will
real
ever get.
person.
Yeah.
An extra twist of
a real person.
a real person.
He was a
The
true
reason Brad Pitt is like he is in Fury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Damn, he's good. That fucking Fiennes is good. I was when they finally told me he was going to James Bond and he was going to be M. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, you're going to get
He's a
phoned
good
into a
M.
fucking Bond
That's right.
movie? Holy shit. And it's going to
Yep.
be directed by Mendez, and you're going to have Barnum, and like, you know, no, I think he came in the next movie or something like that.
He's
Oh, yeah, he was
been
like
in
in
all of
the-
them since then. Yeah.
He was in the third one because that's where what's her name passed away in it.
He's the inspector. Yeah, he's like her boss. Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah, and he takes it. Yeah.
yeah, he's fucking good, man.
But he was great in it too. Yeah, he's
one of the best. One of the best.
He does nothing wrong. Christ, I even put up watching him perform with J Lo in a movie. He was great.
The Maid in Manhattan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
jeez.
know, and
Not to mention he's fucking Voldemort, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
Voldemort. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to number 3. Numero tres. John, what do you got for us at number 3?
Number 3.
Wait,
I
you skipping
can't
Bill?
Hey, I'm sorry, Bill. Bill, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, I was gonna
Bill.
say what?
Yep,
Sorry.
3.
I apologize. Okay. Take it easy there, Amon. All right, relax.
Back it up now.
All right, what do you got for us? Number 3, Bill.
All right. Jesus Christ. It's 10 o'clock already.
He's not that evil.
All right. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it because there's been a million articles written, million podcasts about it. But I can't not bring it up. All right. This is one of the best one of the best villains. And it's a villain that I never really thought about or took seriously in any of the movies or comic books leading up to this movie. And I'm talking about the Joker as portrayed by Heath Ledger.
That's my number 2. You got my number 2. Yeah.
The reason that I connected with this villain so much is one simple line read. When Gamble looks at him and goes, "Did you think you were going to walk in here and rip us off and just walk away?" And effortlessly, Heath Ledger just goes, "Yeah." That's such a great line. And I was just hooked on this character from then.
Yeah.
This is one of those villains that is like irredeemably just it's just pure evil and sociopathy. He just wants to see the world burn, and Heath Ledger embodied that 100%. So that's my number 3.
Yeah.
Just
That's
pure
funny 'cause
anarchy. Pure anarchy.
that was my number 2 was this Joker. And we talked about it when we covered The Dark Knight. That's what I like about him is that he's just this thing that is there to just cause chaos. He's an agent of chaos. He's a thing. We don't know anything about his background. We don't know anything about him. Like they were saying, he had no ID. His clothes are all custom made. You know, he's just this creature, you know, that comes in just to cause trouble. And like when he burns that pile of money, that's like my favorite scene where he's got Lau on the top of the pile of money and just burns the whole thing. He don't care.
It's never about the money.
Yeah.
Sending a message.
Yeah. And I like that he's physically can't stand up to Batman. Like his fighting style is all messy and but it's such and I said this when we covered Dark Knight, he still is the Joker by which all other Jokers are measured. He is still it. I mean, it's nobody can top it. It's just
I love Mark Hamill's. It just doesn't go anywhere close.
No, I like Nicholson's portrayal, but I mean,
I like Joaquin Phoenix's, but
Joaquin's
I've liked
great.
all
It's
of
a great
them.
movie.
Yeah.
But it still is an entirely different type of villain. That's not quite as evil. He's the one that's like almost an anti-villain. Like he's tragic and sympathetic. There's none of that. With Heath Ledger.
When Michael Caine, who I love, couldn't remember his lines. When Heath Ledger walked on the set and started talking, and he just improvised his entrance because, I mean, I'm sorry, that's brilliance. That's how terrifying you can make it.
And I know the squealers when I see them. And
As for the television so-called plan,
I'm sorry. How about a magic trick?
The television. He says,
half, just so good.
Oh yeah,
so good.
that's a great scene.
Yeah.
The
But
whole thing.
and I like when he says, "Let her go." And you know, that's the best when he goes, "Let her go."
Poor
Very
choice
poor
of
choice of
Poor
words.
choice.
And he drops her.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's a good pick.
Oh,
That's a
man.
good pick.
Good
And that
pick,
is
Bill.
the only out of
And
all
again-
30. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and think about what could have been with the Dark Knight Rises. You know, if Heath Ledger was still alive and they had brought the Joker into it, it would have been a completely different movie.
Different movie.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would have loved to have seen like a Justice League with him instead of
Jared Leto?
Oh yeah,
Jared Leto.
the other
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
The other
50
guy.
seconds to Mars bars.
The other guy.
Fucking
I've
dipshit.
liked all the Jokers. I you know, from Cesar Romero on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cesar Romero's awesome too.
Yeah, he's great.
No, I mean, they were what they were at the time. I don't
Yeah.
go out of my way to watch them, but I understand what they were at the time, so it's okay. You know,
My favorite's
you
Cameron
know-
Monaghan from Gotham.
He
Yeah.
was good. He
He's
doesn't
good.
get enough
Yeah.
recognition.
He was fabulous in that show. Yeah,
He's a great character, man.
He played two
Yeah,
different
great evil
versions too.
character.
Yeah.
yeah, I got to binge watch that again real soon. Maybe when I finish Hannibal, I'll
I think
rewatch
the
it.
reason
I
why
just think
Cameron
it's
was
funny
so
those-
great was because he had so much time to add to the character. You know, he was
Yeah.
in it for like maybe 3 or 4 seasons. So
I just
Yeah.
think it's funny those weird Warner Brothers copyright things where they couldn't outright call him Joker, you know, in that show.
that
It
didn't
was
matter.
weird. It was just like we know who he is, so you know. it
You
was-
just say it. Say it. We don't mind.
Yeah, but that's what made the character so great and so
Mhm.
you know who he is. You
Mhm.
don't have to say
Yeah.
his name.
All right, let's keep moving on. Marty, what do you got with number 3? Marty is also joining us over in Dublin, so it's late where Marty is right now, probably close to 3 a.m. So we appreciate that, Marty, and thanks for stopping
no bother.
in. Yeah,
3
man,
a.m. I got to get up in 10 minutes.
oh,
Shit.
Yeah, really.
all right, what do you got for us, number 3, man?
Okay, so it was a kind of toss up between two villains in the same franchise, and I actually surprisingly went with one you may not think. And this dude is a guy who fucks people over. You don't see him fucking each other over for a percentage. You do with this guy, Carter Burke from Aliens.
All right.
Well, Carter
Paul Reiser.
Burke is awesome. Yeah, I love Carter Burke.
This dude should be in the fucking WWE. He does a fucking heel turn halfway through. And the other thing I love about him
Yeah.
is Cameron keeps up with the fucking Vietnam analogy because the CIA, they used to go over and do black ops, and you could spot these guys because they looked like they were going on a fucking fishing trip, and that's how Carter Burke is decked out. You have this one,
Mhm.
you've got all these Marines in their fatigues, and you have a dude who looks like he's about to do a fucking Smokey the Bear commercial over
Yeah,
on
yeah,
fucking Marines.
yeah.
Paul Weiser is brilliant because it starts off, you're like, okay, he's a company guy, but he's okay. Okay, he's a bit snivelly, and like when he's like, oh, he can't make that decision, he's just a grunt, you're like, he's a prick. But then when you find out he was the one who put the fucking pods not only in the room with Ripley, but
Yeah.
Newt.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
when you're like, fuck
Yeah.
this dude, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Paul
And that-
Weiser,
You're dog meat, pal.
yeah, he's brilliant. And
Well, that
even,
was-
even
That's
when he
one
does his
motivation
talk,
I hadn't thought about, being
Yeah.
a piece of shit.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
totally like its own category.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
just like, oh, you're all delusional. You're fucking God, dude. Just fucking own up.
Yep.
He's a great
Yep.
corporate weasel.
Oh,
You know,
that-
he's-
Well, that's the
reason.
great thing about it. He's a great piece of casting because it's so against type.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You think that,
Yeah.
because you're used to him playing the nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you think that he's going to, it's Paul Reiser. Okay, he's going to be, I don't know why he's in this movie, but okay, he's going to be a nice guy. He starts out as a nice guy. He's trying to help Ripley, acclimate, back into
Yeah.
the world, so on and so forth. And then you find out, well, okay, like when she does that reveal, when she finds out that he was the one that sent all the people on the planet over to the spaceship,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, okay, well, maybe he fucked up. But yeah, Marty's absolutely right when he locks them both into the fucking
Yeah.
room, which to
And
me
he
is
turns
the
off
best
the
scene in the
camera.
movie.
He turns
That's
off
the
the
best
camera.
scene
Yeah.
in the movie. Yeah, that's the best scene in
that's
the movie.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just an evil bastard, and
He gets
yeah,
his comeuppance, his appropriate
run-
comeuppance.
He runs right into one of them. He runs
But
right
like,
into
by locking everybody else out of the room, which she says don't do it, and he's like, boom, fuck you all.
God damn you! Open this door.
Yeah.
I'm talking to one of the guys who's working in the Alien comics over at Marvel. There is a what if comic.
Yes, I saw this.
What if he managed to smuggle those 2 face huggers or impregnate Ripley and Newt and get the samples off?
That'd be an
World?
interesting
I'm
read,
keeping an eye on
actually.
that. And Reiser and his son are writing that comic, which is fucking cool.
Oh, cool.
as well, so
That's cool.
I'm excited
There you
for
go.
that.
Jesus,
Nice.
Jesus. Yeah,
Nice.
well, this is your wheelhouse.
Yeah,
Aliens is that Alien Predator, that kind of thing. Definitely your wheelhouse. So,
yeah.
all right, good call.
Yeah.
Eric, what do you got for number 3?
Everyone who knows me knows I'm a big fan of Stephen King. I try to make every Stephen King discussion on this channel. And we even talked about it last week. The biggest villains or the biggest monsters in King's universe are the humans, not the crazy clowns in the sewers or the Cthulhu's or anything like that. And there's a lot of people to choose from, but there's one specific reason why I picked this person. From 1976 is Carrie. Nancy Allen plays Chris Harding.
Oh, there she is. Yeah.
And what is so vicious about her?
Plug it up.
She's not just, the popular bitch, you know what I mean, who has her little minions, the original mean girl or however you want to fucking call her. Carrie, thinks she's dying because she's having her first period. She gets everybody against her to tease her. But what keeps on going is once she gets, of all things, she gets her prom tickets taken away. You know what I mean? She's trying to get all of her little, friends and minions or whatever you want to call them to stick up with her. And they basically say, just shut the fuck up, do what you got to do, and you can go to the prom. She stands up to the gym teacher, gets slapped in the face, embarrassed in front of all of her friends, and then she plots this ultimate revenge. She's not just going to embarrass Carrie, she is going to humiliate her beyond belief. She's going to rig the prom where she is the prom queen, and she's a woman. She knows how to manipulate a man sometimes. And boy, does she manipulate a man to help kill a pig, fill it a bucket of its blood, and just dump it on Carrie at the prom. And the reason why I picked her over, say, Annie Wilkes or the lady from The Mist or anything like that, this girl is just starting. She's 17, 18 years old. If she can do something like this and revel in it, like De Palma does that great, those cuts at the prom when we're getting ready to have the bucket being pulled, close-ups on the rope, close-up on Carrie being happy. But then we had this close-up on Chris. She's literally licking her lips. Like she can't wait for this to happen. And when she hits it, and when she does it, she's having so much fun. She's enjoying it. And like I said, if she's 17 or 18 doing this, imagine when she's in her 30s, when she's in her 40s, what she will do to the one lady who cuts her off in traffic. She's going to be like that guy in Duel, you know what I mean? Chasing her down or something like
Should
that.
be a killer Karen.
And Nancy Allen is so good in this. She's such an evil woman in this. And it's one of those performances that just sticks with you. Because like I said, this is just a high school senior doing this. And the sad thing is you can see it happening in today's society. So it is a relevant character after all these years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a character that is just pure spite.
Yes.
I've been talking about that a lot lately with people. It's just pure fucking like fuck you. You don't get to win.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get anything. And yeah, I mean, if you're willing to go so far as to dump pig's blood on someone who's never done anything to you at all,
correct.
Yeah, you need a serious psyche valve, which she doesn't get. She just gets roasted fucking alive in the gym. If I'm not mistaken. So.
She dies.
She gets in the car with Travolta.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we covered that, and that's just such a good fucking movie. Palma.
She's so excited when she's in that car and they're about to hit her that it's borders on sexual.
Oh yeah, it's like she's in Heat.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a good. That is probably, well, maybe top 3 best King film adaptations. Top 5
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
he's had some winners. He's had some winners.
Yeah.
And that's. But I mean, that was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yep.
was the first one back in '76 with De Palma, and so
Correct.
I mean, back then he started off getting it right, and then I said, well, he went with Tobe Hooper, and then he went with Kubrick, and then he went with Cronenberg, and then it just sort of veered off into like
Meathead.
yeah, it sort of veered off into like Maximum Overdrive. Then and
Yeah.
all these, and even Carpenter, if you like,
adaptation.
huh?
Yeah.
MOON, that spells adaptation.
Exactly. All right, good call. Julia, what do you got for us? Number 3. Julia,
I think
your
you're on
muted.
with us,
Go.
Julia.
I'm sorry, I switched
your mic
my
off?
mic because I was starting to cough. To number 3, I have chosen Julian Carswell from, I want to say Casting the Runes, but it's actually Night of the Demon, which is also known under the title of Curse of the Demon, but Curse of the Demon is 10 minutes shorter because what I feel is a vital part of the plot was cut out to make it 10 minutes shorter. It's based on a short story by M.R. James called Casting the Runes, which I'm sure some of you have heard of. He's played by an actor called Niall McGuinness. And basically, Julian Carswell is a cult leader who can't basically stand to be criticized by anybody. And so he puts curses on them by writing runes on a little piece of paper, which he passes to them. But never mind all those little bits and pieces of detail there. This performance is very different from anything that you might expect, especially if you watch movies of that from that time period, is that instead of this roaring, terrifying pantomime villain, you have a very ordinary seeming man. He doesn't scream, shout and swear. He says things like, she thinks you're going to die in 3 days, you will. Just simply like that. He dresses up as a clown, Bobo the Clown, to entertain children at a Halloween party and does these funny little magic tricks. And then when the hero of the piece, played by Dana Andrews, basically starts to take the piss out of his supposed magic abilities, he just whistles up a cyclone. And this storm comes out of nowhere and tears sort of the grounds apart. And anyway, what I like about this, apart from what I've said, is there's a scene in which Carswell talks to his mother. He lives with his mother. He's mummy's boy. When he explains to his mother that everything, all this, it has to be paid for, and that his disciples pay for it with fear, and he also pays for it with fear, that Carswell is afraid of the forces that he's dealing with. And quite rightly so, because they kill him in the end when the skeptical hero finally starts to believe in magic and passes the runes back to him. But a way of being quietly, deceptively ordinary, and then just says these things like, you will die in 3 days. Sorry, it can't be turned back. And to my mind, that is so much better than any shouting, stamping, and roaring could ever be. So masterful performance, and wonderful death scene at the end. You might enjoy that. I know I did.
Okay. All right. And what's this film again?
The film is called Night of the Demon.
Night of the Demon. Okay, that's always on. That's
Don't
always on
watch Curse of the
HBO.
Demon. That's too short. That's got a vital. I think what is a vital plot element has been cut out from that. But
I think Night of the
watch
Demon
the
is
Night
always
of
on
the
Max.
Demon.
Okay. All right, we'll check it out. Night of the Demon. I've wanted to watch that for a while. It's always on. It's always on. So I just keep.
It's
on.
It's on YouTube, but it's a very poor quality print on YouTube. So try and find it somewhere else if you can.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Ryan, number 3. What do you got for us?
All right. Well, I picked the character from my favorite gangster movie. I find it vastly superior to Goodfellas and all that kind of stuff. My favorite, my number 3 is Jack Carter, played by Michael Caine in Get Carter. Get
There you
Carter is a badass movie. If you've never seen it, I've said it before. It's my favorite, one of my all-time favorite crime films, one of my all-time favorite gangster films. Every character in it is completely irredeemable. Every character is a scumbag. Michael Caine, Jack Carter is a no-nonsense, hardcore gangster who is out trying to avenge his brother's death. He gets wrapped up in this kind of web of intrigue among the scumbags. He finds out that his niece was forced to do a porno. He kills every last person involved in disturbing ways. It's a movie that, I've said this before, it's a movie that makes you want to take a shower afterward.
Wow.
He's awesome. He's absolutely awesome. And he said on the DVD commentary, he said, Michael Caine says he had friends who were, underworld types. And they were always like, how come all our British gangster movies are comedies? You get all these guys, these portrayed like buffoons, like the lady killers and all that kind of stuff. He's like, why don't you portray us realistically? And that's what he did. I mean, this movie Jack Carter is such a badass. And, he gets his at the end. He gets clipped by an assassin who has been following him through the whole movie, but he still accomplishes his goal. He's betrayed by people that he thought he trusted. It's one of those movies where you can tell that he's one man against everybody, but he's still part of that scummy underworld. There's nothing redeeming about his character. I absolutely love his performance. It's my favorite Michael Caine performance, and he is just nasty. He is a nasty SOB. But like I said, everybody else is too. And you can argue like who's nastier, who deserves it. I mean, he forces a woman to OD on heroin because of her part in the movie, in the porno. He drags her out into the woods. She's a prostitute. He drags her out into the woods, strips her, and jabs a needle into her and forcibly makes ODs because he's that mad. He forcibly makes her OD. Because he's doing this for his niece and for his brother. His niece is the only innocent character in this, but she's been tainted because of everybody else who involved her in their sick stuff. It is a bleak movie. It's filmed like it was filmed. It's just grungy. It's bleak. It's Newcastle, which is it's industrial, and Jack Carter, as far as I'd put him up against Corleones or any of them. He's my favorite gangster character. He's just awesome. I mean, just straight up nasty.
I only ever saw the remake with Stallone.
Don't watch that. That's crap. That's crap.
And Michael Caine is the bad guy.
But that's crap. That's Stallone movie's crap. But this
actually, when I saw the Stallone movie, I was with my father, and my dad turned around and went, "The original was better." Well, what's the original? He went and found it for me.
Yeah. No,
when I saw it, I was like, "Oh,
one of my favorite scenes."
Different.
One of my favorite scenes in that, and this sums up his character perfectly. There's a woman who was involved in the movie. I forget the character's name off the top of my head. He pretty much almost drowns her in the bathtub to get information, and then he throws her in the trunk of his car, in the boot, and he's having a shootout with these gangsters, with these other guys. They ram his car, and it goes into the ocean. And he looks, because it clicks. Oh crap, that woman's in there. But the look on his face is, oh well, like she got what she deserved too. But as the audience, you're like, oh snap, that woman's still in the trunk, and boom, and just the look on his face is just like, it's just devious. It's just like, she gets it too. It's just he's awesome.
All right.
Great
All
character.
right. Well, we should always never hesitate to watch a Michael Caine movie. So, all right.
Yeah.
I have it on DVD. I just haven't gotten around to it. I don't
man.
own the Stallone one, but that's the only one I have seen so far. So.
I have it. I'll come over. We can watch it.
I just said I have a copy on DVD.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you had the Stallone one. Okay.
No, I said that's the only one I've seen. I don't own the Stallone one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good movie. We'll have to hang out and watch it sometime.
Yeah.
All right, John, what do you got for us? Number 3.
Number 3, some of the evil people that I love, the fact, and we taught, and Eric, you mentioned this about the ones who are from the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Not walking around wearing black and mustaches and twirling and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And I thought of people like Hannibal Lecter was one of the characters I thought of and everything else. But then I started thinking Alfred Hitchcock. And I sat down and I said, yeah, but everybody talks about Norman Bates. And then I remembered Uncle Charlie from Hitchcock's 1943 Shadow of a Doubt.
I've never seen that.
Oh my God!
Excellent,
oh my God.
excellent film.
Joseph Cotton. Charlie's a successor. He's a beloved uncle of his sister's family. He just visits out of the blue and wants to stay and talk. And he's this great. What did Hitchcock called him? A caricature of old-fashioned American masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
But then you find out they're actually investigating him, and they're talking to his one niece, who's about 16, 17, which also the way they play the character, he may think that he may have ulterior motives for the niece. But you realize he's killed all these people. And you never really see it, but he plays the character cold. He plays him cynical. He's played marvelously understatement. That was my favorite because that was from Hitchcock. And he took this character or this type of character type and brought it to two strangers on a train and Anthony Perkins. He's also funny in his dark comedy. There's a great clip, if you ever see the preview, because I got to see the preview actually today on YouTube, where the niece says, because they're talking about women being killed, and the niece said they didn't deserve to die. And he just turns his eye, instead of looking out the window at her or at the camera, and says, how do you know? And it was just that, and it's amazing. And it's amazing. And it's funny because after I saw the preview, I found it on YouTube and wind up watching it again. I mean, it's just that good.
Yeah.
And he is so, Hitchcock's gone back to it many times and played it, but that's the archetype right there.
All right. I actually own this movie. I haven't gotten around to it. I went on a Hitchcock buying binge.
What's it called again?
Shadow of a Doubt.
Shadow of a Doubt.
1943, man.
I bought that. I bought Notorious. I bought Rope. I bought Lifeboat. And just I went on a big Hitchcock binge and never got around to watching any of them. Still haven't gotten around to it. So I got to do that.
Great movie too.
You should. You should.
There's no shortage of villains in Hitchcock's fucking catalog. I mean, there's some really evil. My favorite is Notorious with Cary Grant.
Yes.
Fighting trying to save that girl from all those Nazis. And they're just fucking evil to the core, man. I love me some Hitchcock. I got to get back into that. Instead of binging series, you got all these classics that I could be watching. Get out of here, stupid cat. All right. That brings me back to me. Hey, all right.
Hey.
My favorite subject. Me. I am going my number 3. Bearing in mind what Bill was saying about a scary person can be someone hiding behind a badge. I don't know that this person exactly hides behind a badge, but it's definitely where he seems to get a lot of his power and authority from. I'm going with Gene Hackman as Little Bill Daggett in Unforgiven.
Nice.
There you go.
Little Bill, I can excuse a lot of Little Bill's behavior because these were exceptionally brutal times. And so maybe you needed someone who was rougher or was willing to be rougher, so on and so forth. But this guy, he sort of has no moral compass. It's sort of this arbitrary enforcement of the rules. If you are Richard Harris and you show up in his town with a gun, he's probably going to beat you half to death, and then, put you on the stagecoach the next day, whatever. And you think, well, okay, well, maybe this guy is just trying to avert, having a killer in his town who wants to kill people, notorious fucking, gunman. But then you start to get, the story starts off with the way he handles those cowboys that cut that woman up. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't do anything to them. He just finds them like a couple of horses. And it sets the tone for this movie where the guy who's like the pimp for the women, he's talking about property. Like, I paid $1,000, no one's going to want to, be with someone, who's got their face all cut up. And he just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating. And then what he does to Morgan Freeman, and he's just, I don't know, he's just kind of this lawman run amok, where some things seem to matter. If he decides that it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. If you do this other thing, he might kick you half to death. He might torture you half to death. But like every good villain, he actually believes that he's right because he's the law, and the law seems to be whatever he says it is. So much so that right up until the end, when Eastwood finally gets that rifle in his face, the only thing he can think to say is, I don't deserve this. Like, I was building a house.
Yep.
Like, he's like, how am I a bad guy? I was building a house, and like Eastwood looks at him, he's like, that has nothing to do with it.
This.
And he won an Oscar for that performance. I know amongst the hi-hat crowd, it's considered one of the greatest, maybe the greatest Western of all time. I don't know about that. But of all the characters that were in there, he was my favorite one. And he's certainly a villain.
He just had a birthday. Just turned 94 a couple days ago. Hackman did.
He's retired from acting. Yeah, so he seems
still alive.
Yeah,
he's still alive. He just retired from acting.
Yeah, like 2-3 years ago or something like that. He's still with us.
He's
given us
now, I think. Yeah.
He might be. He's given us decades of great leading man and character acting. This was another example of great character acting.
Yeah, Little Bill's an interesting character because you don't really know his background. You don't know if he was like an outlaw first, who, one of those outlaws who became a sheriff, like Brian Dennehy in Silverado or something, or like, so you don't know where he's from or why he chooses to be so brutal, to people. And maybe it's the environment or whatever, but he's just an unhinged, it's crazy.
You think that you might have to have somebody who's rougher, but then I guess in an ideal sense, you would have somebody with some sort of moral center. And his seems to always shift for the situation, and that's what makes him so awful. But because no one ever challenges him, he doesn't, even up until the point where he dies, he never seems to see it. He doesn't see it up until the end. He consistently thinks that because he is the law, that makes him right, and that's not the case. So that's my pick for number 2, Gene Hackman, Little Bill Daggett. Number 3, excuse me. All right, let's get to number 2. Bill, what do you got for us? Numero dos.
All right. When we were putting this list together, this is the very first villain that I thought of.
Oh, nice.
And it's sort of in the realm of superheroes, so it was kind of obvious, at least to me. But for me, the most interesting superhero movies are not the ones with, 1,000 robots coming out of a black hole and crazy aliens coming to take over the earth. It's the superhero movies that are grounded in reality, and like a Logan or a Joker or movies like that. Even Deadpool is kind of in that vein. But this one is probably the first really, really, really good superhero movie I saw, and the portrayal of the villain in this is just amazing. So I'm talking about 2000 M. Night Shyamalan, Unbreakable, which takes superheroes and grounds them so deeply in reality that it's almost like there aren't superheroes, but there are. It's this slight tweaking of Bruce Willis's character, where he just has enough of this health that he doesn't get sick, and he's pretty strong. He has enough of this extrasensory perception that he's a good security guard, but nothing more than that, right? And going for the villain, you've got Samuel L. Jackson playing Mr. Glass. Yeah. Absolutely super portrayal of how supervillains come into being, because this guy's got absolutely the best sincere intentions in his actions. He really wants to just find these superheroes because he thinks they can be a benefit to society, but it leads him to obsession to the point where he's willing to kill hundreds of people in this, derailing this train in order to find the one unbreakable person. And this, I thought it was brilliant of M. Night to do this. It's absolutely my favorite of his movies. It doesn't rely on a twist, and I think the portrayal of Mr. Glass by Samuel L. Jackson is so out of character with him and all the other characters he's played. It blew me away the first time I saw it. It's my favorite villain of all time, I've got to say.
Okay.
I'd like to interject here that this film totally destroyed me. I was crying like a baby at the end of this, because to me, right up until the end, Mr. Glass was the hero. And I thought he was a wonderful hero, because he was capable of being hurt. The one thing that really, that makes me not really into superheroes is that they're so invulnerable. They just, Superman can't be hurt. So this one, that one, the other can't be hurt. Bruce Wayne, I know he in the comics gets his back broken, but again, it always comes up smelling like roses. Mr. Glass suffers. He is in pain. He is vulnerable. He has more courage than the other guy, because the other guy is unbreakable, apart from the water thing. So when at the end it turns out that he was the villain after all, I was devastated. Because, he was my hero. Not anymore. Wonderful performance.
You
I don't
finding out
often
who you,
I just want to point that out.
you finding out who you are. I was able to find me. The kids called me Mr. Glass. Oh,
Now
God.
you know
And
who I am.
yeah. I had people mad at me because The Sixth Sense, 2 minutes into the movie, I told you this, Mike. I whispered to my brother, Bruce Willis is dead, I think. And my one brother went, he's dead. And I saw this movie, and at the end, I was more blown away by the ending of this movie, because I was like, it just came out of nowhere and made perfect sense.
It's his best movie, I think. The concept is so original. It's so completely played out in this movie. I wish they had done more in between this and Glass and the other one.
Bill, you're blowing out your mic, the audio. You're blowing out your mic. Sorry.
All right, I'm just wish that they had done more between this one and Glass and Split, because by the time they get to Glass, they're all old and stuff, and there could have been so many more adventures if they had been able to do a better sequels.
Yeah, I agree.
Good choice.
It's an interesting flick, and it was an early time, I think, before the MCU. And if the MCU hadn't come along, who knows what types of movies might have been possible. You weren't getting a DC or a Marvel character. You were getting this wholly organic, your whole batch of organic material. And even the comic books that they talked about were all the low grade kind of, they weren't talking about Thor, they weren't talking about Superman or whatever. It was like Century Man, even in the shot that that he's holding up, it's just, who is it? Yeah, it's Century Man. These sort of low grade sort of street heroes. And you did feel so much sympathy for him because he's just in so much pain, and you're not really sure if the pain has sort of unbalanced him. Like that scene, and I still cringe to watch it. Sometimes I fast forward to it when it's on, where he falls down the stairs, and you're just like, oh God, I just don't want to hear his leg break. I just don't want to hear it. But yeah, I mean, for that early run of Shyamalan movies were just top tier. Yeah. Between that and Signs and Sixth Sense, I liked The Village. I don't know about anybody else.
I like The Village, but I guessed it in like 2 minutes, like John did with Sixth Sense. I was sitting there going, "Oh yeah."
All right, so we've got two Karnaks here in the
Sorry.
I thought M. Night was really clever visually. Like he used red as like an emotional thing in Sixth Sense, putting Mr. Glass constantly in purple and Bruce Willis constantly in green was pretty cool. Visually.
Yeah, it was interesting that Willis was a flawed hero. Like in the introductory scene, he's taking off his wedding ring to try to talk to that girl on the train. He's not necessarily this, moral, he's not the North Star. He's very flawed. He's a flawed person. His marriage is on a downslope. His son almost shoots him. That one scene where his son so desperately wants to believe that his father is a superhero that, he's going to shoot him with like a 38 right there on the breakfast table. It's a crazy movie. It's fantastic. Fantastic. All right, good choice. Good choice.
Yeah. All right, I got to bail out. I can't stay till number 1. I got to get up at 5 a.m. So this was a great discussion, but I think Ryan's number 2 is my number 1, so you'll probably cover it anyway. So good night to you guys. Thanks for having me.
I'll cover you. I'll get your number 1 out there for you.
Hey, Bill.
Later,
Night, Bill.
Bye.
Be well, sir.
Thanks, Bill. I have to take a very short break. I will be back in a couple of minutes.
What?
Okay, she's saying she has to take a break. She'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Okay. All right, no problem. Marty, what do you got for us, number 2?
Okay, so you were discussing this guy not too long ago. Love this character, one of my favorite 80s sci-fi villains. Kurtwood Smith's Clarence Bodiger cannot go fucking wrong. Bitches leave. I love the character. He's almost fucking pantomime in how fucking evil he is. He's almost got like a level of one-liners. And the fact that Verhoeven made him, the costume made him look like Himmler. I want you to look like Himmler. So you give him the small spectacles and stuff. And just, again, he's the most jovial sociopath ever. Because he's like throwing dudes. Can you fly, Bobby?
Fly, Bobby.
Out the back of vans and stuff. And you genuinely feel this is the one dude who could kill RoboCop.
We covered that. Go ahead, Marty. I'm sorry.
No. Is there playback somewhere else as well, guys?
Yeah,
somebody's.
It's Julia.
I think it's Julia's computer.
I can hear her, but her camera's off.
She didn't turn the mic off.
Okay.
Right.
But Kurtwood Smith's fantastic, fantastic
Yeah.
bad guy, and just he's like everyone says Dick Jones. Kurtwood Smith steals that movie from that character.
Richard.
Yeah.
That is that was one of the ones we covered here on the show. It's a different movie looking back on it now. But yeah, he was a good villain. It was what you got in the 80s usually. You know, and to some extent in the 90s, a sort of over the top one-liner kind of villain. Yeah, excess. You got a lot of excess.
Like the gun deal as well, where he dips his finger into the guy's wine and puts it into the coke, and it's not guns. It's just such a fucking great and fun character. It's like,
he's absolutely fun.
I wish they done a prequel movie with Boddicker and his fucking gang or something. Like, I don't know. So for me, he's just a brilliant character.
No, he's a lot of fun. I love him.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. It's a good one. All right. Number 2, Eric.
Okay. A lot of things that makes a great villain to me is being completely out of your mind, having a plan, willing to see that plan out going through, and winning in the end. And what's even better is when your villain is barely in the movie. I think he's only in the maybe 15, 20 minutes. I went with Kevin Spacey as John Doe in 7.
There you go.
And what I love mainly about Spacey's performance as John Doe is we've already seen his handiwork, how vicious he is, how disgusting he is, you know, how truly evil he is. But whenever he's on screen, other than a couple outbursts, he's very low key. He's very calm. He's very collective. And what I like about him is he turns himself in. With his reveal is one of my favorite reveals when it comes to a villain in all of cinema. He literally walks into the police station, yells detective, and he raises his hands, you know, covered in blood. He says, "I believe you're looking for me." And that just sets the tone with this guy on screen for the rest of the film. I love how they mention this blood is fresh. It's not from any other victim. So we have to listen to his diatribe for the rest of the movie to find these possible, you know, would-be victims type of thing. He's just so frightening in just how cold he is. And, you know, it's been parodied 100 fucking times. What's in the box? You know what I mean? But you take and it's sad because now all the parodies kind of takes out the intensity of that scene between just 3 actors. Morgan Freeman, who's by himself for a lot of it until he comes up to Brad Pitt and Kevin Spacey. And just how much he enjoys it is because we know it's sadly it's the head of Gwyneth Paltrow, which is the wife of Brad Pitt. And he's just, you know, talking to Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt's not paying attention. Brad Pitt's just telling him, you know, shut the fuck up, you know, that type of thing. He wants to know what's in the box. And then he looks at him and he says, I'm not going to quote it perfectly, but he says, you know, she prayed for her life and the life of her unborn child.
Yeah.
And then light goes on in Brad Pitt, and then he gets slapped by Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman's the calm, collective guy.
Right.
And what really sells it for me is it's rough. Spacey just looks, he smiles, and he goes, he didn't know.
Oh,
so for him, that was a bonus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, that was a bonus. He knows he's wrecked this guy, and he knows he's going to get what he wants. He's going to get Brad Pitt to take him out.
Yep.
And then it's a great shot that Fincher does, you know, with the barrel of the gun, and we know what's going to happen, and you just see him slowly close his eyes and accept his victory. He's destroyed this man's life. That's what he was planning on doing. And it's just a fantastic, chilling performance. And I put it, I mean, it's different, but I put it up there the same. It's kind of like Anthony Hopkins. You think he's in the movie more than he is.
But he's not.
Because of how strong the performance is. Yeah. And this was my first introduction to Spacey. I saw it before The Usual Suspects and anything else he's been in, and in my personal opinion, I don't think it's ever been topped. So John Doe in 7.
Yeah, I think that what was off-putting about it is how ordinary looking he is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he just looks like a dork.
Yeah.
He really does. He just looks like a dork. You know, and it's funny because if you've ever watched like something on Netflix, like interviews with serial killers, they look like dorks. They look like your dorky uncle that you would just pass on the street and not give a second glance at. You know, and you know they've killed countless women or whatever, and it's just you look at it and you're like you know you look like Uncle Fester. You know, get the hell out of here.
There's that scene earlier when they had the photographer, taking pictures. Get the fuck out of here! And then they're yelling at him, and he's wearing a trench coat and a hat, but you would assume he's a normal everyday guy. And then that reveal when they're looking in the tub with the film, and it's the picture of Brad Pitt, and then they're like, "Oh, we fucking had him."
Yeah.
When you walk into his lair and it's just all red, and when Morgan Freeman's talking about all the books he has, there's no order. It's all rambling and nothing makes sense. The way he would slice his skin off his fingers so there'd be no fingerprints, and then like Freeman says, the scariest part about this guy is he's patient. He strapped a guy down to a bed and starved him for a year. I mean, so that tells you how sick, twisted, and planned out this guy was, and that's truly scary.
It's a good performance. It's a good performance.
Great performance.
Yeah.
Hey guys, listen, I gotta bail too because I gotta get up in the morning. So I'll just tell you my number one. Well, my number 2 is Joker. We already covered that. My number 1 is the greatest movie serial killer of all time, Norman Bates. But I gotta split. So I'll catch up with you guys on the flip side. All right.
You got it, boss.
Later.
Good night.
Good night, Ryan.
Hi.
And now there's only 5.
I got to get up at 4:30, so I don't know what the hell they're all belly. Bunch of pansy asses. Jesus. All right, Julia, what do you got for us? Number 2.
Number 2 is Oswald Cobblepot, as played by Robin Lord Taylor in one of the best TV shows ever made. That's Danny DeVito.
You didn't say you didn't mention the name. You just said Oswald Cobblepot.
Respect to Danny DeVito, but no. Absolutely.
You said
not.
Oswald Cobblepot. I'm sorry. You didn't mention the name. You didn't say Robert Lord Taylor. Sorry.
Well, it was Robin Lord Taylor. Oh God, I thought it was obvious it was Robin Lord Taylor. I mean, who else would it be? But of course, respect to Danny DeVito, and I'm not taking the piss here. Respect to Danny DeVito, but I was referring to Robin Lord Taylor in the TV show Gotham.
Excellent choice.
Shame you don't have an
Bravo.
excellent actor. I've been a Batman fan since I was 6 and watched the original Adam West TV show on British TV, when all those years ago, and so I had some very fixed ideas of what Oswald Cobblepot should look like. I should also point out I've got some of the comics, but when I first see a picture of Robin Lord Taylor as Oswald Cobblepot, I'm like, no way. No way. He's young, he's attractive, he's thin, he's stylish. But I kept looking at the pictures and I noticed there was this forward momentum, this fierce forward thrusting movement energy to him. And I thought, yeah, the Penguin before he was fat, the Penguin before he was a crime boss. And we get to see the evolution of the Penguin. How at first he hates being called that. And then he grows to accept the name, and then he grows to be proud of it. Where to start? I mean, there's the ruthlessness, the cruelty, which you don't expect from a rather pretty boyish face. You don't like Pinky Brown in Brighton Rock. For some reason, I don't expect pretty boys to be vicious. So of course, it's always startling when it emerges until you start to get used to it, the notion that this is a penguin. But there's a particular scene in which he kills a gangster. First he taunts him and then he kills him. But the veins actually pop out on his forehead during that scene. And I'm like, I have never seen that happen in acting ever before. He has conscious control over the veins in his forehead. What can I say? There's a lot of humor involved. He has some of the funniest lines. But at the same time, you know, if he wants you dead, you're pretty much dead. Yeah. Scenes in which he was suffering in the asylum, I was on the edge of my seat. I should point out here that I did Robin Lord Taylor's fan group on Facebook, and I was the first one. So I knew him slightly. And it was actually horrifying because, you know, I kept forgetting this is acting. He's not really in pain, Julia. You know,
Yes,
it's not really happening. But and the whole character arc, I mean, the fifth season, as some people may know, was cut short because Disney took over, and we were lucky to get half of a fifth season at all, really, because they didn't really like it. I don't think they understood it either.
No.
But you do get how he forms friendships and then breaks the friendships, then makes the friendship, how he falls in love and how he falls out of love, and so on and so forth. What can I say? A bravura performance, but also I totally bought him as the penguin.
The way he walked. The way he walked was amazing.
Yes, he was using a method acting trick there. He actually had a bottle cap in his shoe to remind him that he was supposed to limp, because that was actually quite a difficult thing to. If you're playing a limp, you are deliberately favoring one leg over the other, so you're actually doing yourself a bit of damage here. I think he escaped from it with no long-term ill effects. They also, the show was very keen on making him put on a lot of weight rather than wearing a fat suit, which he was reluctant to do because, you know, as some of us know, it's easy to put on, it's really difficult to take off.
The thing I liked about that show was... Oh, sorry, Susie. The thing I liked what they did with him as well is they done a nice little nod to Batman Returns, because Paul Rubens played his dad in the show, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes. He played Robin Lord Taylor's dad as well. And again, that's another splendid actor. I'd love to have seen him as a villain, but I didn't get that. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he resonated with other people as well. But that show was just so damn good. I would have loved to see David Mazouz get to be the full-grown Batman. I would have loved to see Selena Kyle turn into Catwoman. And I missed Claire Foley, that she didn't get to be the grown-up Ivy Pepper, but you know, constraints and everything.
Absolutely.
What's great about Robin's performance?
She was scary.
What's great about Robin's performance is kind of like when I mentioned Cameron Monaghan as the Joker. He had 5 seasons to help grow that character and make it his own. And that helped him so much. And what I liked is, you know, he is this ruthless character. In the very beginning, he's just an errand boy, you know, for Fish Mooney. But I also like, because it shows more acting with Robin Lord Taylor, is like, you know, you mentioned his dad was Paul Rubens. Carol Kane was his mom. And I loved how much, you know, as ruthless as he is, he's still just a mama's boy. You know what I mean? You bought his love for his mother. And then when she's taken out, that's when that switch is flipped. And I just love his performance. It's so good. And then he's got some comedy in it. I think we mentioned it once, you know, because we mentioned Robin before on this show, is when Batman finally shows up at the very end of the episode and he's dressed, you know, in the top hat and the monocle, and you got the Riddler next to him. They look up and it's like, we'll try this again tomorrow. You know what I mean? They just run away.
It was an original take on the character. They had enough time to you know, sort of let it grow, and they did a really good job.
Love that show.
All right, John, you're number 2.
For my number 2, I actually hit my first female villain
She hits
that
you
I
back.
found evil. And it's so
What'd you do
funny
that for?
because I love the fact that she embodies everything I like about the mystic and like gypsies and vampires and Stephen King. I picked Rose the Hat.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Nice.
You know, I'm sorry, and I'm in love with Rebecca Ferguson. Have been for quite some time.
We all
I have
are.
no qualms on saying that. But the way she played Rose, it was discomforting and outright terrorizing, using her sexuality at times. When Mike covered it, I was a part of the crew, and I said
Mhm.
when she first turned, she looked like a serpent to me, with her smile and the way she looked at the child type deal.
Yes.
Not so much like a child or even a victim, but as dinner. And I loved her performance in this. It's just creepy enough. It's just cold enough. It's serpentine enough. And God damn it. I every time I see it on television, unless I'm walking out the door to work, and even then I'm still debating, you know, I wind up sitting and watching it, man. She is, to me, damn, just a cold villain, and it works.
Mhm.
I think that part of what made it effective is that at least through the second half of the movie, she's constantly on the back foot. You know, she's starting to get tuned up a little bit, and so it's not. She becomes a little more complex because she gets her ass kicked in a couple of dreams, and then in that supermarket, and then you know in the shootout scene, she watches all of her friends get killed. You know, and then in the house, you know, and so you have this extraordinarily formidable villain that's also sort of being matched, and it makes it more interesting than just this, you know, sort of thing that just keeps coming at you. Although she does, there has to be some nuance there.
She's a venomous. She's vicious and venomous, man.
She goes after children. That's also, you know, the girl in the very beginning,
the baseball
the
kid.
baseball player, and then Abra. You know, I mean, there's 3 children right there, and if you're willing to, and I think it's because you know the shine is stronger with children. You know, it's more pure, or whatever, because they have to eat that life force. But still, the fact that you're willing to go after children for your nourishment, that's truly evil.
And the enjoyment she took.
Oh
when
yeah,
she did it. You know, that was the other thing too.
You could tell, and this always helps a performance. You could tell Rebecca Ferguson was enjoying this role.
Yeah.
She loved being wicked. She loved being evil.
I tell you, man, it's like what that guy Joe Stinson said. It's so much fun being the bad guy or playing the evil person. It really is. It's almost cathartically releasing. That deal as a performer.
If anybody gets a chance, Oh, go ahead, John.
That's all. No, that's exactly it. That's all you got. It.
I was going to say, if anybody gets a chance, like Eric told me, and you have access to the director's cut of Dr. Sleep, please watch it. I had the director's cut on the Blu-ray and didn't realize it. I had the theatrical and the director's cut, and then about a year after we covered it on the show, I finally got around to watching the director's cut. And it's a damn good one. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Cool.
All right. That brings me back to myself. My number 2 isn't an ancient character or anything like that, but very complex if you've seen him. And unfortunately, he's lost a step because of bad writing in subsequent appearances. And I don't know if we'll ever get back to what he originally was, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I'm going with Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk. Wilson Fisk is an extremely damaged human being who grew up in an extraordinarily abusive family, ends up murdering his father to protect his mother. and then as we see him in adulthood, has become this sort of behind the scenes crime boss in the Daredevil series. Very extraordinarily intelligent, intuitive, very low key, and yet just beneath the surface is this extraordinarily violent and explosive man, monster almost. If you see that scene where he grabs that Russian out of the SUV and then just proceeds to slam his head in the car door until the car door closes, which means he completely crushed the man's head. It's fucking chilling it because you're like 4 episodes into these hour-long episodes, 13 episode season, and somewhere towards the end of the 4th hour, you finally just see this guy who's just been speaking very softly and very intelligently, and then all of a sudden just fucking explode. And when you get to the end of the 1st season, he says, because his plan is what in his mind is, this plan to save New York City. And he considers himself to be like the Good Samaritan in the biblical parable. And then he realizes by the last episode that he's actually the man who accosted the hurt man. He's not the good. He's actually the evil, and that self-realization about himself. The best performance in D'Onofrio's career. Fantastic stuff.
Well, we kind of texted about this, Mike, because that was going to be my possible alternate choice.
Yeah,
it was the same one. And that scene that you described about banging the door, what got me the most is that when it was over, the first thing he says was, "I'm going to need a new suit."
Yeah,
and it's just cold and dispassionate.
But what it is, it's acting.
It's acting, man.
It's acting. It's top tier acting. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we are down to number 5. We're almost at the 3-hour mark.
We can do it.
Yeah, we can do it. Not a problem. I will just. We are here at number 1. I'm just going to list Bill's number 1 and I'll go through Ryan's as well. Bill's number 1 was Darth Vader. So yeah, of course, it's a complicated story for me. Darth Vader was always sort of a flat character until we got to the Filoni stuff, and then they pushed out Anakin Skywalker because it seemed like you needed to understand Anakin Skywalker before you could understand Darth Vader. Right. So I'm glad that they did that. But that's just my take. Some people don't appreciate it. All right, number 1, Marty, what do you got for us?
I'm going to go to the small screen, but not a small actor. Essentially, I'm going to go with Ian McShane's Al Swearengen from the short-lived but fantastic TV show Deadwood.
There you go.
You see a lot of characters who are trying to they're trying to kind of justify their evilness. But it's very rare you see an evil person trying to kind of stifle their humanity, because there's goodness in the dude, but he doesn't want to show that. And like if there's kind of sorry, I'm getting a bit of reverb here, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. What is that?
Is that on my end?
Has somebody got something playing something else playing in the background?
No.
Yeah. Okay, no bother. So essentially, right, you have a character who's he realizes the world he lives in, something like having humanity can get you fucking killed, and it's a great dichotomy because he's trying to bury his humanity, and Seth Bullock is trying to fucking control his rage. So you have these two very different characters, but McShane makes a very kind of complicated character. He's not a run-of-the-mill bad guy. If this is a regular kind of fucking Western, it'd be kind of Seth Bullock's the good guy, Swearengen's the bad guy. It's not. He is vital to the town. He is important to the town, and he has a code and he has an honor system, and he knows what he is. Even I don't know. Have you seen the movie? Have you seen the movie yet, Patrick?
Yeah, I have.
Mike, sorry, Mike, he's in the movie. Even when he's dying and one of the girls is saying an act of contrition, our Father who art in heaven, his last words, he can fucking stay there. It's like, that just sums up the character perfectly.
Yeah,
so
completely.
for me, Ian McShane as Al Swearengen, fantastic fucking villain.
One of the best pieces.
Fantastic.
One of the best pieces of writing you'll ever see in a series.
David Lynch, right?
I don't think it was Lynch. I don't know. I've got it right here.
Yeah, David Milch.
Oh, Milch. I thought you said David Lynch.
No,
Like,
David
I don't think
Milch.
it was Lynch. Yeah, David Milch.
I think it'd be a whole lot different if it was Lynch.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I wouldn't be enjoying it.
Al Swearengen just breathing into it. What you fucking call me?
Yeah. But I mean, just fantastic. I love that they brought the Hurt brothers in there. Fucking Wu, Mr. Wu, just one of the best.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Swearengen.
Cocksucker. Oh, you ignorant fucking shit.
That scene where he's doing with the cleaver and saying it back to Wu, switching going, God, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
One of the best things HBO's ever done. That's a fantastic pick. It's hard because he transforms. He starts out as a villain, and he never becomes a good guy exactly.
Yeah.
But he becomes a pillar of the community. He
Yeah.
becomes the spine of the community. I'm so glad we got that movie. Because I was like, you can't fucking, after fucking Hearst fucked off, I was like, dude, you have to finish it. So I'm glad we got that movie.
And of all the people to deliver something like that, Gerald McCraney, was fantastic as George Hearst. Fantastic. All right, Eric, what do you got for us? Numero uno.
Okay, I cheated a little bit, but Mike didn't say no when I did this. It's a 3-for-1 deal. I think it's perfect casting, it's perfect chemistry, it's perfect charisma. They're out of their mind. Say what you want about the director, but I chose the Firefly family specifically from The Devil's Rejects. And it's based on the fantastic performances of Sid Haig, Bill Moseley, and people can say what they want about Sherry Moon Zombie. These people are sick, twisted, and they love it. And what I think is best, and I specifically told Mike The Devil's Reject, is because we get to see more of them together. And we get to see just how fucked up they really are. But what I love about this, and it's in their performances and Rob's writing, is these little bits of comedy. You know what I mean? They're on the run from the law. They've just sliced off a woman's face, or a man's face, and put it on a woman in a hotel. And now they're arguing about should they stop and get some fucking ice cream on the way. You know what I mean?
Fruity.
And that's what I like, because as bad as it sounds when I say this, these people are so psychotic. They enjoy what they're doing, but they really are a family. Families fucking argue like that. It's dad, we're going to grandma's house who's, a 5-hour drive. We're not going to stop because, we got to stay on fucking schedule. And it's like lightning in a bottle for me with these three actors together. And I just love it. And again, they're having fun being so bad. You know what I mean? It's like, when Captain Spaulding's having his sex dream with Ginger Lynn. Did you just call me a clown? I calls it like I sees it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or when they're all literally hammered into the chairs at the end at the end. The house is on fire. William Forsythe is showing all the victims. And this was Sally or whatever. She don't look so pretty now. And then Otis, Bill Moseley, he says, yes, she does. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because he's that sick and twisted, but he just doesn't give a fuck what Forsythe is willing to do. And what I also love, as bad as it sounds, is they're so loyal to each other. It's like that. You can't pick on me. You can't pick on my brother. Only I'm allowed to do that type of thing. You know what I mean? They hate each other. They fight each other. But if they're in danger, they drop what they're doing. They get in the van and they go help. And again, it's a rough movie to watch at times. But it's one of those movies, in my opinion, where based on the performances and, like I said, the charisma, especially Bill Moseley as Otis. You go from realizing these are sick, twisted, disgusting people, but then you're like, okay, I'm enjoying what they're saying. I'm having fun watching them interact with each other. And then by the end of it, you know, what are they going to do next? And you can't wait to see that because, air quotes, you're having fun watching them. And you know what I mean? A lot, you know, you either love or hate the ending, you know, with Freebird and everything. I love it because it's shot so wonderfully. And then there's this ongoing thing with, you know, Spaulding's taking care of baby because it's daddy and daughter. And then Otis is, he's like a stepson or whatever with that fucking family tree is. They're always arguing with each other. But when they're about ready to take out the cops, he hands Spaulding the shotgun, the rifle. So it's like a passing of the torch. He finally fucking respects them when they're going to get killed by the cops. So it's just, people either love or hate Rob Zombie and love or hate his films, but I think these three are perfect together.
I thought it was his best movie.
I still do too, yeah.
I think it's his best movie. That they switched over from this cacophony of just whatever that was in the House of a Thousand Corpses to this gritty Southern, you know, sort of fried, you know, chase, you know, cops and, you know, murderers kind of thing going on there. This a complete movie with a sequel with a completely different tone. I thought this was better than Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, and they're just so good. Like even when they're by themselves, you know, when Spaulding's, you know, scaring the little kid, you know, what's the matter? You don't like clowns? Or baby, she's using her body to seduce Jeffrey Lewis of all fucking people. You know what I mean? It's not the only thing I do with this mouth. Like, and she's saying it to Jeffrey Lewis of all people. And it's just again, you know, I've said it already, lightning in a bottle. It's fantastic writing, fantastic acting.
He hasn't come near it since, really.
No.
He hasn't come near it since. All right, Julia. What do you got for us? Your number one pick.
My number one pick is John Mauler from The Medusa Touch. Now, I know that you're pretty much blanking this. This is played by Richard Burton, did a very fine line in Villains. I'd just like to mention a British gangster movie, not so well known, called Villain, in which Richard Burton plays a gangster loosely based on Ronnie Kray, one of the Kray twins, and is absolutely terrifying. And he is absolutely terrifying in this. He has the most malignant gaze you can possibly imagine, chills you to the bone. At the beginning of this movie, we think that John Mauler is a victim because he's found beaten. They think he's dead because he's been beaten so severely around the head, but it turns out that he's actually still alive. And through interviewing his psychiatrist, they find that John Mauler has this peculiar delusion that he can cause death. He believes he causes the death of his nanny through something like measles. He believes he caused the death of his parents. He believes he caused his school to burn down. And lo and behold, it turns out that he did. And it's just a wild for it to dawn, one, that his powers are real, and second, that his psychiatrist, whom he was begging to help him, is the one that did it, because he finally managed to convince her that he really did have the power. This is a very bitter and twisted man who hates everybody, literally everybody, hates God, because it's all God's fault, not his. You know, you can feel a certain amount of sympathy for him when his wife gives birth to a badly deformed baby that soon dies. But that sympathy didn't last, really. He dragged an airplane out of the sky, crashes it into a London tower block with sort of a kind of a three. Well, we all know about 9/11, but it immediately reminded me of that when I saw it. And he does this just to prove a point, just to prove to her that he can do it. He then goes on to try and destroy Westminster Cathedral. And at this last, when he's in his hospital bed, dead, no, still alive, he writes one word on a piece of paper. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit. I first saw this movie at a party. It was back in the days when I was really skint and living in this homeless person's hostel. I managed to get an invitation to a party where they had a television. And so I slipped away from the party into this bedroom, sat on a pile of coats on the bed, switched on the TV, started to watch the movie. A couple of minutes later, somebody else came in, sat down, watched it. A few minutes, and before long, the entire bedroom was stuffed with people sort of elbow to elbow, buttock to buttock, watching this movie, absolutely riveted. And when he wrote that word on a piece of paper, we all bricked it. The word was wind scale. Might not mean anything to you because it's been renamed Sellafield, and I always wonder if the movie had something to do with it. It's a nuclear power plant. And this was back in the days when everybody was terrified of nuclear power. Long before Chernobyl, And so basically, it's not just me. I thought it was one of the most brilliant performances ever. A load of other people did too, much more interesting than the stupid old party. And I did mine in this particular order with what I thought was the least dangerous to the most dangerous, not realizing that we were to do the honorable mention first. So this guy, John Mola, is less dangerous than Niall Athertep. But bloody hell, is he terrifying. You know,
It's on Tubi right now if you want to catch it.
Oh, good. It's also on YouTube. Okay. It's called The Tubi. Medusa Touch. It is a masterclass in how to terrify people by acting alone, basically. Richard Burton is a great actor. And I'm not saying this because of all these classic movies that everybody thinks of. I'm thinking of The Medusa Touch. Also, he was in Exorcist.
Okay.
He was also in Exorcist 2, The Heretic, playing a good guy.
Yes, he was.
In a movie that wasn't so good. So, and Equus. You've got to see him in Equus if you ever get a chance to see Equus. Watch it. He's the psychiatrist in that.
My favorite Burton movie is Beckett with Peter O'Toole. O'Toole. That's just so funny. He plays the Archbishop of Canterbury.
I'm a huge Richard Burton fan. I've seen this movie. I was lucky enough to see him and Liz Taylor on stage doing Private Lives about a year and a half, or about a year and a few months before he died. I got to see him perform in Philadelphia, right on the stage. And wait, Julie, because you'll get a kick out of this. And I know it's not scary, but whatever. The theater had a fake column, like it was a hotel, and they opened up, and you were in the apartment scenes. And Richard Burton comes on, does his bit with the person, and Liz Taylor comes on, and all of a sudden I see a column on the set go inward. It didn't connect right. It didn't catch.
Yeah.
And backstage is Richard Burton smoking a cigarette right by a red fire bucket that's filled with sand. And as he's smoking, I'm sitting in the front row, and I look up and I look right at him, and he looks up, and we lock eyes. And I just go like this, and he smiles, goes like this, and then goes, shh. And I mean,
that's awesome.
I was a huge fan of his. When he died, I actually sat there and I started crying. Because I'm like, and my mom goes, well, why are you crying? I said, I never got to meet him. I was pissed at it. But yeah, he was, and I saw the movie, and you're right. When it came to the end, or towards the end, my mother goes, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I want to watch it again now. I think it was the first time I said I want to watch the movie over. Type deal. It's a great flick. Highly recommend it.
All right, good pick. And it's on Tubi right now if anybody wants to catch it.
I just added it to my queue.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, John, your numero uno. We're coming towards the close here. 2 away from wrapping it up. What do you got for our number?
got, Johnny?
Well, it's funny because giving it to Eric to pick the Wicked Witch of the West type deal.
Yeah.
This movie scared me as a kid.
Okay.
For the 50th anniversary, I took my niece to see it in a movie theater. They re-released it, and she was about 3.5, which is when I first saw it. And it scared me then, and I never thought something like this could scare me. But mirror, mirror on the wall, what's the scariest movie of all? Snow, the Queen in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. She terrified me. And everyone keeps saying, but it's a cartoon. And I said, if you think it's a cartoon, then you're not watching the same film. This was written by adults. It was written for adults. This was not in the days when, they were doing the lighthearted fare. And it was terrifying. The way they played it. Yes, you had the dwarves. Yes, you had the cleaning of the house and the singing with the animals and blah, 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 blah. But when she came on, you froze. Like I said, I was with my one niece, she was about 3.5, and we're watching in the movie theater. My mother asked, do you want to take her? And I said, of course I will, because she was also my goddaughter. As we're sitting there, at one point in time when she was offering the apple to stuff, she grasped my niece grasped my fingers. And I said, are you okay? She said, yeah, it's just a little scary. And I went, that's okay. I'm a little scared too. She goes, okay, we'll get through this. And it was probably my favorite line. But even in that movie theater, it was an old-fashioned type movie theater. It was about like 350, 400 seats. It was packed on a Tuesday matinee. And when she dies, sorry, spoiler alert, and anybody that didn't see it, the whole movie theater erupted in cheers and applause. A writer, a teacher told me about, you got to remember the things that scared you when you were little. This movie scared me when I was a kid. And even now, I'll watch some clips and I'll still feel the hair on the back of my neck start standing up.
Great voice performance. Great voice performance.
Absolutely.
People forget that this was based on a Grimm's fairy tale. And Grimm's fairy tales were not, comedic fare. They weren't children's stories. This isn't Aesop's fables. These were rough, graphic, fantasy stories that usually ended quite brutally. I mean, I think at the end of this, in the fairy tale, I think they capture her and they make her wear iron boots and iron shoes, and then they make her dance on hot coals until she combusts or something like that. It's really quite foul.
For kids.
Yeah. So why not make it into a bunch of
read that to your kid before they go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. All right, good night. And none of that nightlight shit either. Turn it out. We're going to sleep tonight.
And make sure you tuck in your feet so the creatures don't grab you from below.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I like as well the complete folly of the whole situation was started because this bitch was jealous. Then she turned herself into this hag.
Yeah.
And you don't know if she can turn back. You don't know if she can turn back. She's after fucking undoing the very thing she sought to do.
Yeah.
Well, what I love is, again, it's jealousy. And when she's in normal evil queen form, for a cartoon, say the character's made to look really, really attractive.
Yeah.
And it's like that meme that I know Mike's seen it, with the remake coming out with Rachel What's-Her-Face and Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot, it's fucking Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot is jealous of being, overlooked, in the looks department.
Some short little...
Rachel Zegler, whatever the hell her name is. It's just funny how...
the jealousy of it.
Yeah. They have to be number one.
And that's why I picked it. That's what scared me as a kid, and it still scares me. I'm turning 60 next November, and it still creeps me out a little bit.
And the thing is, she doesn't just want the huntsman to kill her, bring back her heart to prove that she's dead. You know what I mean? That's some sick shit.
Yeah. She was, and
Snow White's
funny because people go,
14,
but it's
15?
a cartoon.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's a terrifying story and well portrayed.
those early animations will never depreciate.
That's right.
You know, and yeah, it's they're timeless, and you know, if you have access to them, you know, they really are things you can watch at any age, and enjoy. And that doesn't happen very often. And they had quite a run of those, and you know, if you own them, you're lucky, probably. You know, your own physical media, that kind of thing.
That really animation is sadly a lost art too.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we won't see that again.
That's when they were drawing it.
Yeah.
Cell for cell.
This was now, you know, now we're going to be getting AI animation soon, I imagine, if we're not already.
I wouldn't be surprised.
All right. That John, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
I just said absolutely. That's all.
All right. That brings me to the final number one on the list. We've gone through 35 or something like that, 36 different movies, probably 40 with Marty. It's been a long stream, but a good stream. We've talked about some great characters. We learned a few new things. Julia bringing up some things we didn't know about before, so it's always good. But you know, as Willie Nelson says, they say that all good things must end. And here we are, number one. I set up parameters for this that basically said you would get 1 through 5 and an honorable mention. I said everyone was allowed one television character if you chose it. But it's my channel, so I decided I was going to give myself 2 television characters. So my number one favorite villain is Mads Mikkelsen as Hannibal Lecter in Hannibal. If you haven't seen this show, and I know I've been trying to get Eric to start binging it like yesterday.
Yeah, you texted me like literally like 10 o'clock last night. If you haven't watched it yet, watch all 3 seasons now.
I own all 3 on Blu-ray. It's playing on Tubi right now, the entire series. We had a conversation about a few weeks or a month ago about the Interview with the Vampire series, and I was saying how fucking great it is. And Eric said, you originally hated it, didn't you? And I said, I hated the idea that they were going to make a television series out of Interview with the Vampire. And I said, why the fuck would you do something like that? We don't need that. I had the same reaction to this.
Okay.
Why would you make a television series about Hannibal Lecter? We already have Silence of the Lambs. We already have Red Dragon. We already have Hannibal. We already have Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins is Hannibal Lecter. This is just going to be a huge turd. And I don't think I've ever been that wrong before. They turned it into this visually stunning, incredibly well written, incredibly well cast, operatic fucking horror series. And the whole thing with Mikkelsen and being able to flesh Hannibal Lecter out over 3 seasons, they actually cast an original character played by Gillian Anderson, the great fucking Gillian Anderson, who I've been in love with since 1994, 93, when she first appeared as Dana Scully. And now she's actually become like a real cinematic actress now. You know, she's been cutting it up for a couple of decades now. She's just fucking greatness personified. They cast her as Hannibal Lecter's, this completely original character, his psychiatrist, this woman named Bedelia du Maurier.
Okay.
And she explains Hannibal Lecter in this perfect fucking way that I've never heard anybody do. And she just summed it up with one word: whimsy. Like, he just does things just to see what will happen. He just does things just to amuse himself. He's perfectly okay with putting himself in danger just to see what will happen.
Nice.
And he's the cooking scenes, the visual scenes from him cooking are just like, you're like, holy shit, that's just beautiful to watch. The dining scene, I mean, that have nothing, I mean, let alone the ones where you see where he's cooking human parts. But I mean, just the standard cooking scenes that they do, you're just like, holy shit, this is fantastic. The cases that he's called in to solve, because
isn't he I mean, this is like a twist, isn't he helping the police, but they don't know he's really the killer?
It starts like at the beginning of Red Dragon. He's working with Will Graham.
Okay.
He's working with Will Graham, and it's about his relationship sort of with Will Graham. They do the Red Dragon story. They do this section, although it has nothing to do, they rewrite the part where he goes over to Europe, like in Hannibal, where he's the professor teaching the classics. And it's just like, I don't even look at Anthony Hopkins anymore as Hannibal Lecter. It is now Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, wow.
It's perfect. It's perfect. And unfortunately, it ended. They said that they were going to come back with a 4th season and redo the Silence of the Lambs. And originally they were going to cast Ellen Page as Clarice Starling, but of course that's not going to work anymore. And
I don't think it would have worked to begin with.
I think at her height, like around the time she was doing Inception, I would have been up for it. Now, I mean, there's always rumors that it might come back for a 4th season, but for right now, we have these 3, and I
keep hearing talks of like a Netflix movie to kind of end it, kind of like what they did with Deadwood.
You know, there's a Clarice show, right? That's not.
Connected. Yeah, I didn't.
Nothing to do with rights. It was originally going to be connected, but there was some issue with Thomas Harris and use of particular characters. So.
I didn't see it. I wasn't ever necessarily interested in Clarice. I liked Clarice in Silence of the Lambs. I didn't particularly care for her in Hannibal. I don't think Julianne. I love Julianne Moore, but I think she was. I don't think it was a good cast. Right. Yeah, she didn't get it right. So I wasn't necessarily into. I mean. I can't watch Clarice without Hannibal, or I wouldn't think, at least.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't catch it. But this, you've got Fishburne playing Jack Crawford.
Okay.
You've got, and he's just an asshole. He's just a bully. He's a bully, and he's kind of an asshole. And yeah, it's just fantastic.
I remember when it first came out, I watched like maybe the first 3 or 4 episodes, and then we moved and we were without cable, but I always wanted to return to it. And this came out at a time when, like with Gotham or with Bates Motel, where they took this property, but they switched it around, they changed the story, but it worked. You know what I mean? You could look past that. Like Gotham is not about Batman. It's about Jim Gordon. It's a detective show with Batman characters. Bates Motel about the young Norman and younger Norma. And we don't get to, what the hell is her name? Jamie Lee Curtis's mom. Her character killed in the shower. Janet Leigh. We don't get to her character until like the last season. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you have all this stuff, and I've always been one to revisit this. So trust me, I'll get to it for sure.
It's a beautiful thing to watch.
The series is really clever as well, because as Eric was saying, you have the long form kind of thing of a TV show, so you get more into Hannibal, but it isn't, as you said, he has Gillian Anderson as his psychologist, but you also get bits of dialogue. There's a funny scene where he's talking to Arsene Wenger, and he's like, "You're so civilized. You're going to eat me. You're going to cannibalize me, because it's only cannibalism if you're my equal." And you're like, that gets into his fucking mindset. Yeah. It's so fucking good.
You've got Eddie Izzard's greatest performance, as far as I'm concerned, is Dr. Abel Gideon, who incurs the real, like, Lecter kills people because he kills them. And maybe there's a reason, maybe it's self-preservation, but he's like a character who incurs the wrath of Hannibal Lecter. And yeah, I mean, Gideon's really, really good. Yeah, Eddie Izzard, fantastic performances.
Okay.
Really, really good stuff. My number one.
All
All
right.
right. Is there anything John, you wanted to?
We can do that the next. We can do that the next movie, next time, man. It's getting a little.
Let's do it.
2 weeks. A quick plug. 2 weeks. Thank you very much. 2 weeks from this Saturday, Saturday 17th, and Sunday, February 18th, I am involved in as you can read, the 6th annual New Work Weekend. For what that is, there is a small theater in Somers Point, New Jersey, that invites local playwrights as well as playwrights from New York City to submit plays that are about 10 minutes long. There's 4 from South Jersey, 4 from New York. The guy who runs the theater is an actual film script writer named Bill Skerritt, who actually fixes scripts, and he does these things, and he brings in all of his friends who write. I've known the guy now for about a good 7 years, worked with him on different projects. He's doing 8 plays. I'm in 4 of them.
Oh, nice.
Like Bill. And the thing about it is, I know there's some people who are saying, but wait, I'm nowhere near Summer Point, New Jersey. We actually been doing it on Zoom for the past 2 years. The theater space that he's in, the studio space, is only a 45, 50 seat theater. We put a camera in the back and it covers the whole stage. So it's just a one-shot camera, and people can actually buy a ticket and watch it live. Nice. And it's also done at 3:00 in the afternoon. Because Bill's 72 or 73 now, and he just said, I'm too goddamn old to be staying up this long. But the point about it is, they're really good work. I wish Ryan was there because he knows 2 of the playwrights, as well as I do, that are local. And some of them are funny. Some of them are very serious. My characters range from a priest that's actually having an affair with a woman at one point, to a snarky human resource guy, to in one part, I'm either playing, because we haven't decided yet, I'm either playing a playwright who's writing the ultimate play and the worst actor ever who wants a part. I'm either one or the other. So it's typecasting both ways. And the point about it is, some of them are very funny and some of them are very serious, and it's great work. So I'm in it and pushing it, and it also supports a very small theater in Somers Point.
Good for you, dude.
That's all.
Good for you. Yeah, congratulations, man. That's awesome. All right, well, listen, guys. Here's what I'm going to do. We're coming up on 3.5 hours right now. I am going to thank everyone for 3 years of just great streams and conversations.
Been a fun ride, dude.
Yeah, 218 episodes.
Congratulations, dude.
Yeah, still going. Got a whole winter full, and looking at things for summer. We'll see what happens in the spring. We'll see what happens. But yeah, no signs of slowing down at all. My thanks to all of you that are here. You've all been a part of that, and I appreciate you. And to everybody that left, I don't appreciate that. No, I'm just kidding. Bunch of fucking pussies, Yeah, who could appreciate that? Nobody likes that shit. It's bullshit. But my thanks to everyone and the people in the chat, and let's just keep going.
I just want to say, Mike, this is episode 218. My first episode was, I think, 16 when we did Zombies, Halloween 2. And then it was very sporadic until I kind of became, I guess you would say, a regular. And I just want to say it's been fun because you reached out to me and to be a guest, and the fact that you still look forward to me being a guest to discuss films. It means a lot to me after fucking 3 years. So thank you for that, and congratulations.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone who takes the time to come and hang out and just. It's a weird thing because we're not talking about a lot of movies that people discuss. So even if I can turn one person on to a film that they haven't heard of before, and then they come back and say that's a really good fucking movie, I'm glad I heard that. It's all worth it.
If it wasn't for you, I never would have fucking watched Lamb. So, and I love it.
So, yeah.
I got a bunch of people who actually they watched yourself and myself review Primal and they're now they love the fucking season 1 and 2 of Primal Brother. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the real thing. It's the real thing. We're gonna have some good stuff lined up, Marty. I want to get you back on. Hopefully not so long until the next time. John, thank you again as always.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Julia, like Marty, thank you for staying up so late just to come and hang out. I know it's 20 after 4 there in the morning, so let's wrap this up. I will see you all in the next video. All right, and I'll see you in the 4th year. Take care.
Good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Slán amháil, yeah.
Be well.